4,000 years ago, an earth-shattering battle was taking place. Monsters from all directions were charging at a blonde young man, their eyes filled with bloodlust like hungry beasts eyeing their prey. Yet the blonde young man showed no fear. With just a gentle raise of his hand, he created an ice wall blocking the monster's attack. Then, with just a blink, he conjured countless ice spikes, annihilating a whole group of monsters. Boom! The already dark and gloomy sky grew even more ominous. Below lay countless corpses of demons defeated by the young man. However, this deathmatch was far from over, as the demon's allies still remained. They glared at him with eyes full of hatred, speaking with contempt. "A mere mortal dares? What the hell are you?" He slowly stepped forward, his voice echoing in response. "Oh, you don't know me. The messenger of justice, fighting against the evil demons disturbing the world. That's me, the strongest human, the 9-star Great Mage, Lukas Trowman." That arrogant declaration was like lighting a fuse to a powder keg, making the demons react violently. "No human force dares oppose us," he replied without hesitation. "Such outdated thinking, you filthy savages. When a great person like me has achieved everything in this world, he starts wanting to help it. This is just charity work." As he finished speaking, the diamond placed on Lucas's chest emitted a blinding light, making the demons even more furious. "This bastard thinks he can defeat us!" Without responding, he flew up into the sky, deploying a mysterious magic formation before the bewildered eyes of the barbarians. Using only one hand to support and enhance the formation, he turned back and said to them, "Of course, that's exactly what I'm thinking." Suddenly, an unimaginable power was unleashed. The only thing visible was the young man's silhouette flickering within the blinding light. He flew out of that chaos, leaving the explosive formation for those foolish demons. He declared heroically, "Humans aren't as weak as you think." Right after, along with a bone-chilling wind, came an authoritative voice. "Don't be so arrogant, Lukas Trowman." From the opposite direction, a figure flickering in white light approached. He was startled and stepped back. "What?" The newcomer spoke. "We are the rules of this entire world and the entities governing chaos." A large figure wearing a black cloak along with his trusted subordinates appeared from thin air. He continued, "We demigods are the ones your humans worship and praise." He pointed and asked challengingly, "What are you? I've never worshipped you." He coldly replied, "Your actions have disrupted the wheel of order and rules. Now you will no longer be forgiven." He seemed confused. "Order and rules." Then he mocked, "Don't turn this into a circus. You call the current state of the world orderly." The demigod responded, "Your abilities have exceeded human limits, but in the end, humans are still just humans." Lukas Trowman's cold gaze at the demigod sent shivers down one's spine. Suddenly, he was crushed in the demigod's palm, the demon arms continuously surrounded, swallowing him whole. He struggled weakly, realizing a terrifying truth. "I can't use mana." The demigod warned with a condescending tone, "Mortal, remember that humans are never allowed to oppose gods. That is the greatest sin. As you sink into hell's darkness, you will eternally doubt." He was being completely devoured by the demons. Only faint cries of agony remained. The demigod continued his curse. "Doubt and doubt again. Always doubting, eventually, you will doubt your very existence. Return to nothingness, sink into eternal suffering, and regret your existence. The fate of those who dare disrespect gods, I shall punish you personally." In the present time, a young man was thrown down mercilessly. He knelt on the ground in extreme agony while a group of thugs bullying him asked, "You think we're beggars? What the fuck, going out with only a few coins like this? The prestigious Blake family's son with such an empty wallet, pathetic." The young man was beaten until he coughed blood. The leader mocked, "I don't know why the hell you were even born into the Blake family. Your siblings are so talented, yet you're such trash, huh?" Then he grabbed his hair, continuing the torture. "But whatever, I like this." The boy screamed in pain. "Ow!" People around indifferently watched the scene, along with the bully's terrible insults. No matter how much you're humiliated, no matter how much your family despises you, or even if you're the worst student in academy history, you still haven't died. He glared and cursed. "If I were you, I would have killed myself long ago." While speaking, he continued his savage torture. The teenager was resentful, tears streaming down, but unable to fight back. One of the guys behind said irritably, "This bastard really won't die." The leader continued, "But you know what I like most about you?" He punched his face like using a punching bag. "It's that you never get boring when I punch you day after day, my perfect punching bag." He mounted him, pummeling his face in a corner of an abandoned warehouse. After beating him, he grabbed his hair and pulled him up, tossing him around like a lifeless ball. His lackey caught the ball and kicked his stomach. Even the sound of breaking bones could be heard. Two more jumped in, stomping on him mercilessly. When satisfied, they finally left him covered in wounds, a battered body, a young soul damaged beyond repair. He used his remaining strength to scream, "Please, stop!" but only received a kick to the head. That plea was nothing but seasoning for their feast, only exciting these beasts more. The leader looked with contempt and said, "Remember, we have magic practice class tomorrow afternoon, right? You're paired with me. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. You know I'm a good boy, right?" "Bullshit, I'll make tomorrow a day that will haunt you till death, because from tomorrow you won't be standing on these legs anymore." After saying that, they left. It was getting dark. Lights in nearby buildings had turned on. He even waved goodbye. "Don't wander around, go straight home. You need to rest for tomorrow." Then he remarked to his scumbag friends, "Damn, punching him felt so good. Better than fucking a girl." Only the boy remained with trembling hands, crawling on the ground. He could only curse. He desperately thought, "I want to become stronger." Back to Lukas Trowman being surrounded by demons, he suddenly awoke. "I think I just heard something." After focusing to listen again, he heard nothing. He wondered, "A hallucination? I'm about to go insane." From the abyss of sin, a huge arm reached up as if trying to grasp the sky. How long has it been? A few hundred years? No, it must be thousands of years. Lukas Trowman had been imprisoned for thousands of years, now awakened. That was the punishment for disrespecting gods. He asked himself, is this feeling fear? Then his inner self exploded even more. I want to become stronger. At this moment, nothing was more resolute than Lukas's will to break free. Perhaps this is my subconscious, not a hallucination. I didn't know I was this weak. He kept talking to himself. Back to reality, that pitiful bullied student was now kneeling on the ground with a panicked face. He stammered, "Father just said..." While his father sat on a luxurious chair, slowly speaking the cruelest words. "I said, get out of this family. I don't have a son who brings such shame to our family name." The boy remained silent, bowing his head in humiliation. Is being weak also a sin? He lost patience and shouted, "Enough, you are never to ask that question again." Then he abandoned him there. "The Blake family doesn't accept those without the ability to develop strength, Frey." He looked down at him with contempt. "You never existed in my life. And I never appeared in yours." This was the statement that completely shattered a young student's heart. He knew he wasn't loved, but never expected that to his father. He was nothing but despicable trash. Tears welled up, but he held them back. But the moment his father left, his emotions completely lost control. He cried until his face contorted. At Frey's home, a magnificent mansion. Inside a dark room, the figure of the bullied student slowly packed his belongings, leaving the cold family. He looked at the medicine bottle in his hand. A terrifying thought arose: suicide. His hands trembled. Is death always this scary? Meanwhile, in another dark space, Lukas Trowman, being imprisoned, could still hear the Demigods' words echoing. Doubt, doubt, and doubt again. Eventually, you will doubt your very existence. He screamed, "Shut up!" then went mad. God, what the fuck is a god order rules? Is this unfair and meaningless world so precious to you? Then he laughed maniacally. I see now. I understand why this world is so disgusting and cruel. I also know why I absolutely cannot give up. Demigod, I will endure here so that one day I will smash your face in. See you soon, Demigod. Meanwhile, the young man, after his foolish act, began vomiting blood. Lukas Trowman was startled, sensing something. What is this? A light flickered before his eyes, the first light he'd seen in thousands of years. That teenager had decided to just die. He comforted himself, just die, while he screamed, "Who is it? Who's in my head?" He heard, "I don't blame anyone, it's just in nature. Birds that can't fly die first." He was confused, hastily asking, "What did you say?" Those words kept echoing. "It's all my fault. Being born without wings, being unable to get stronger is my fault. Is that really true?" After saying that, he threw himself off the rooftop. People around gossiped. Must be that useless kid. Is he really from the Blake family, the disgrace of Westroad Academy? The bully leader's words echoed. Why don't you just die already? If I were you, I wouldn't have the nerve to live this long. He fell. Everyone around just watched coldly. Don't make me laugh. Who the hell are you people to judge me? He fell to the ground, but it was like falling right in front of Lukas Trowman. Seeing someone fall before him, he panicked and struggled to break free. The seal was gradually loosening. He didn't understand why this was happening either. Just as that kid entered his consciousness, it felt like warm sunlight. He walked over and gently touched the young man. Who are you? The boy's eyes were still filled with tears about to fall. He thought, if I have the next life, I will definitely jump from the ground and fly to the edge of the horizon where I can see the world from above. I hope I will have strength and mighty wings. Like a miracle, it seemed a miracle had occurred. Lukas Trowman entered that weak student's body at the moment he drank poison preparing to jump. He stood up happily. Finally, I'm back. 4,000 years, such a long time. He looked at the medicine spilled on the ground and understood. He is Frey Blake, the weakest human, and I am Lukas Trowman, the greatest mage in the world, or used to be. He untied his hair resolutely, walking forward. From now on, you are me, and I am you because you gave me freedom. From now on, in this present life, Lukas will live as Frey. He opened the curtain moonlight, illuminating the room. I will give you wings. He raised his hand to open the window, pointing at the moon. Demigod, you who are called gods, just wait. It won't be long, I will definitely make you pay. See you again, Demigod. That was his warning for this return. What will happen on Lukas's path of revenge on a peaceful moonlit night? In the middle of an empty garden, Lukas concentrated all his power. His whole body seemed to glow. Lukas was deep in thought, his face full of worry, muttering, with Frey's body, I can't channel my full power. He thought of a solution. First, I must compensate for the lacking energy and strengthen my foundation to absorb mana. Lukas Trowman frowned pensively, saying, to fight the demigods, I must recover my strength as quickly as possible. A surge of power urged Lukas. No, I need to become even stronger than before. At this moment, he concentrated his entire body, feeling an additional powerful energy source. Take it slow, this is the opportunity I got after 4,000 years of waiting. Lukas's face was deep in thought. Must stay calm and suppress my rage. Now I must focus on my current abilities. It seemed he had found the light of hope in his life. Lukas Trowman's eyes suddenly lit up, his body radiating an endless energy source. Seems like I've reached 5-star level. Suddenly he panicked, eyes wide, blood sprayed from his mouth. Lukas sat panting, his face full of anger. The impurities accumulated in Frey's body, I must expel them, Lukas Trowman said with a frustrated expression. I'll vomit it all out, not leaving a single drop. Then he concentrated all his strength to expel all the impurities. On a sunny blue sky day at the schoolyard, David and Zek met and greeted each other happily. Zek said, David, why are you here so early today? David answered excitedly, what else? I'm so pumped for today's class. Zek's face showed doubt as he asked David to beat up Frey. Zek reminded David, take it easy. Don't hurt that brat too badly. David irritably replied, ha, then why did you beat him so hard yesterday? Zek's face filled with gloom said, now that you mention it, yesterday near the infirmary I saw him. He was running with a bottle of sleeping pills in his hand. David was surprised. Sleeping pills, Zek said. Maybe he tried to kill himself because of you, David skeptically said. What, you think he has the guts to do that? David pushed further, challenging Zek to bet on it. In another scene, Lukas was still struggling with the impurities inside his body. His face was gaunt, breathing heavily, panting his weak voice. Damn it, how much have I thrown up? Suddenly, an unexpected energy burst out, startling Lukas. A deep voice echoed. All of this came from that kid's body. Lukas's face clearly showed exhaustion and sorrow. Seems like that kid's life was full of tragedy, huh? Still not as much as mine, though. I'm so hungry. At Westroad Academy's cafeteria, students were gathering for lunch when suddenly everyone was shocked. People whispered to each other, what's wrong with him? Looks like he's been starved for a whole week. Lukas ate like his life depended on it, his face full of satisfaction. Oh, so delicious, he exclaimed. This stew is amazing. Cuisine has really developed tremendously over 4,000 years. Nearby people were still gossiping. That's Frey Blake, right? No way. How could... Frey continued, enjoying his meal with great satisfaction. It melts in my mouth. In the school hallway, Lukas seemed confused about the changes in his life. God, I'm this old now. Am I supposed to study with these brats? He sighed in frustration. Ha! Lukas calmed down and thought. I have no other choice. I can't make up for 4,000 years of knowledge with just Frey's memories. His eyes showed determination and seriousness. I must know how the current world operates. No rushing, he said. Lukas opened the classroom door, attracting cold stares from all the students. David gleefully shouted, nice, I win 10 meal tickets. Zek was furious, his voice harsh. Damn it, he couldn't even kill himself properly. David smugly teased Zek. See? I told you to think before you bet. Zek angrily gritted his teeth. Fuck off, I'm pissed now. Lukas Trowman's face was full of questions, his eyes showing suspicion and confusion. Lukas was walking when suddenly David stuck out his leg to trip him with a challenging look, his voice full of mockery. You came! Buddy! Lukas Trowman's eyes showed contemplation. Buddy! Looking at David, his face was murderous. Zek, not willing to accept his loss to David, angrily grabbed Lukas's hair and furiously said, Hey Frey, give me 10 meal tickets, you made me lose the bet, you hear me? Zek's voice was full of challenge. Pay up, you dog! Lukas Trowman's rage peaked. He raised his voice and shouted, Who the hell do you think you are to hit me like this? His face showed shock. Is he my friend? No way. His eyes flashed. Scum like him exists in every era. Lukas's whole body trembled, limbs went weak. He asked himself, what's happening? I'm trembling. Thoughts raced through his mind. I'm scared of this worthless brat. Zek screamed in Lukas's face. Hey, where's my ticket? Zek raised his hand to hit Lukas, but by some force, Zek's hand was flung away. David was startled. They were all surprised by what just happened. Everyone around started gossiping, all looking confused. Look, wasn't Frey just standing in front of Zek? It's not just me who saw that, right? A girl with striking orange hair was full of surprise. Zek turned to look at Lukas, his face full of doubt. Lukas seemed to realize something, deep in thought. Oh, so these are the ones, the reason the kid gave up on life, looking at Zek, who showed resentment in his heart. Shh! He grabbed Lukas's collar. This look! Zek swung to deliver a devastating blow to Lukas when suddenly from within, Lukas and energy burst out, lighting up the entire surrounding area. Zek was flung to a corner of the class, desks and chairs scattered, nothing remained intact. Zek cried out in pain, his face battered, blood streaming down, his face gray and disfigured. Lukas still stood majestically looking at Zek, who had just been taken down. Classmates were buzzing, whispering to each other, What was that? Why did he fly away? What happened to him? He's unconscious. Lukas's expression seemed to change slightly, looking at Zek with deep contemplation. Oh my, how embarrassing. I accidentally attacked that kid. Frey, you're so lucky. Me, Lukas, the strongest mage of humanity. Lukas covered his face and left under everyone's watch. David saw Zek lying in a corner and was filled with panic. Questions started forming in his head. Wait, what the fuck did that bastard Frey just do? There's no way he could do that. Everyone around was shocked by what had just happened. In the orange-haired girl's mind, Lukas's image suddenly flashed. It seemed she had discovered something. From somewhere near the classroom door, a deep and authoritative voice rang out. What's all this noise about? Classmates exclaimed, Professor Dio. They began recounting everything to the professor. Sir Zek suddenly fainted. He's not moving. The professor looked at Zek, his eyes widening in shock. These marks are from an attack skill activated by mana. The professor's face couldn't hide his surprise, clearly showing doubt and extreme confusion. Among the professors, no one could do this. Who exactly was it? Class time had arrived. The class was settling down for the new lesson. Professor Kevin was teaching today. Because Professor Dio had to take care of student Zek 1, Professor Kevin will take over today's class. Professor Kevin also spoke to reassure his students. Student Zek just fainted, nothing life-threatening. The medical staff said he'll wake up tonight, so don't worry and focus on the lesson. Professor Kevin looked around the class with shifty eyes. Female students clearly showed discomfort, not at ease with that face. In Professor Kevin's head were only inappropriate thoughts. Inappropriate and vague. The atmosphere in this class is really great. There are way more female students than other classes, especially the top-tier beauty Isabel. Kevin looked around. His gaze stopped as if he coincidentally saw something. Frey. The female students in class were still whispering to each other. They clearly showed their dislike for Professor Kevin. Hey, I don't like Professor Kevin at all. His eyes squint every time he sees female students. A nearby female student reminded her. Shh! Don't look at him or you'll become his target. Professor Kevin stood in front of Lukas, his voice full of mockery. What a coincidence meeting you here, Frey. Since when did you start attending class regularly? Kevin looked at Lukas, his face curious. Lukas seemed not to understand what was happening, holding his head in annoyance. Professor Kevin, seeing this, couldn't help but be confused. He's sighing. This Frey kid, and here I thought you were a diligent student. So you're actually a serial class skipper, solo. Lukas looked at Kevin and smiled awkwardly. Professor, forgive me, I've been busy with something. Professor Kevin raised his voice. Busy? Students around were upset and spoke up. What a creep, he always picks on him. He looked displeased, his face murderous as he asked Lukas, Oh, is that so? You mean there are things more important than my class? Lukas smiled brightly and confidently replied. Something like that, Professor. I'm at that curious age, you know. Everyone around was surprised by his words. Hey, what did he say? Hey, don't laugh, he'll notice you. Haha, Professor Kevin helplessly said. I understand. At this age, everyone is sensitive to everything. You're right, I'm not the type of teacher who thinks his class is above everything, but I have a question for you, student Frey. Classmates worried about Lukas. He's targeted now, poor thing. Kevin began his question. You always follow the class content closely, right? I'll quiz you. If you can't even answer this simple question, I'll make you take responsibility for your disrespectful attitude toward teachers earlier. Kevin raised his voice. First question, name 3 items once used by the magic martial king Kasajin. Lukas's eyes suddenly lit up. Surprised, he asked Kevin back. What did you just say? Kasajin. About 4,000 years ago in a certain forest, Kasajin appeared with an imposing figure. Muscular, bulging muscles. His whole body seemed to glow, carrying within him a powerful energy source, a figure full of spirit and vitality. Kasajin's power radiated, making the forest tremble. Nothing seemed to remain intact before his strength. Kasajin breathed a sigh of relief. Phew! Lukas suddenly approached, saying, Control your power, you'll destroy all the mountains around here. If wild beasts lose their homes, can you take care of them? Kasajin froze, surprised, turned around. Lukas! Lukas replied. Long time no see, Kasajin. Lukas was led to Kasajin's home. Kasajin continued training diligently. Lukas looked bored, saying sadly, Hey buddy, I finally came to visit and you just let me sit here watching you practice martial arts, Kasajin replied indifferently. I already made tea, drink it. Lukas clearly showed an annoyed face. Damn blockhead, always training like this, when will you ever get married? Kasajin sighed, turned to retort. You're the same, what's different? You don't understand women's hearts at all. Lukas angrily shouted back, so what women only bring pain? Kasajin, hearing those words, suddenly walked toward Lukas with powerful, imposing steps. Love and emotion are toxic thoughts that disturb the mind. Those who cannot control their desires will never... Lukas frantically shouted, I know, get away from me, you muscle-brain idiot. A dark thought flashed in Lukas's mind. Is he trying to kill me or what? Kasajin continued. A martial artist must see women as rocks. What about mages? Oh, great mage Lukas Trowman. 2 determined eyes met as if affirming their resolute words. Lukas replied, If the rock is beautiful, then it's fine. Drink some tea. Lukas's face looked somewhat down. Scene changed to classroom Frey at this moment slammed the table exclaiming, What magic martial king Kasajin, you really made it, buddy. After 4,000 years, finally that blockhead who only knew training like you became famous. Professor Kevin, seeing this, asked Frey, What's wrong? Frey can't answer. Classmates were very worried about Frey. They gossiped. He's done for. How can we know something that's not even in the textbooks? That pervert is trying to show off his knowledge. Suddenly, from a corner of the class, Isabel stood up, speaking clearly. Sorry for interrupting, Professor Kevin, but I believe the knowledge in your question is completely inconsistent with the magic history we've been taught. Everyone frantically tried to stop Isabel. Isabel, don't do that, sit down. Frey was stunned, turned around, mouth agape. What's with her? Her sharp voice like a warrior completely different from her pretty appearance. Isabel had caught Professor Kevin's attention. He looked up at student Isabel. At this moment, Isabel continued. Kasajin was a martial artist. He only used mana to strengthen his body. Therefore, we cannot group him with mages. Isabel's eyes shone with determination, confident in her words. Professor Kevin, hearing this, approached Isabel, speaking as he walked. Kasajin, according to you, wasn't a mage, Isabel. Are you insulting those who practice the path of magic martial arts? Isabel fearlessly retorted, I think you're making an inappropriate comparison. Everyone was surprised hearing this. Everyone worried about Isabel, afraid her words would anger Professor Kevin. Frey, hearing this 2 words, flashed through his mind, insult. In his mind appeared Kasajin's words from years ago. I am a martial artist, not a mage. Lukas, are you insulting me? When I called him a magic warrior, he went crazy and wanted to beat me to death. Such nostalgia. Hearing Isabel's words, Professor Kevin seemed uncomfortable. Seems like we need to have a little discussion. He grabbed Isabel's arm and said, What do you think after class? Let's discuss in my office. As soon as he finished, Isabel immediately showed her attitude, shaking Kevin's hand off her, speaking sternly. Please be proper, Professor. Kevin, seeing what just happened, raised his voice. Isabel, I never thought you would be this badly behaved. Isabel seemed frightened. Her face froze, sweat streaming down. Professor Kevin angrily slammed Isabel's desk. Then answer the question. What items were used with the Tiger King Gauntlet, Giant's Belt Wind Necklace? To survive in this world 4,000 years later, Lukas decided to live as Frey. At this moment, his voice suddenly rang out from behind, making Kevin turn around to see who it was, and it was none other than Frey. He said, Kasajan lived minimally, so he only had those few things. In Frey's mind, he thought, how many times did I tell him to pay attention to fashion, but he never listened, especially that old necklace. Lukas finished speaking and turned around, seeing everyone staring at him intently. What, did I say something wrong? Professor Kevin was very surprised, his face pale as he exclaimed, The answer is completely correct. Hearing this, he excitedly shouted, Of course, how could I be wrong? Classmates were very surprised about Frey. That Frey is a bit strange today, right? Yeah, completely different from usual. Professor Kevin's shady eyes glanced at Isabel. However, for Isabel, I noticed you lack respect and discipline. Before finishing the sentence, he approached, grabbed her wrist tightly, loudly saying, Come to my office now. Isabel's eyes filled with fear, tears about to fall. Frey, seeing this, came to Isabel's rescue by asking Professor Kevin, Professor Kevin, did you know the magic martial master used to always say something like this? Love and emotion are toxic thoughts that disturb a martial artist's mind. A martial artist must see women as rocks. Those who cannot control their desires will never stand firm on their own feet and will degenerate into lowly creatures worse than monsters. Professor Kevin, hearing this, was extremely panicked and asked Frey, What do you mean by that? Frey smirked and replied, Nothing, I was just reviewing my lessons. Maybe Kasajan was a bit confused, because I see Professor standing just fine. Hearing Frey's words, Kevin was furious, face contorted, shouting loudly, disturbing the whole class. Frey Blake, Hey! That shout made everyone freeze, everyone's face was scared. Professor Kevin shouted at Frey, You answered one question correctly and now you've lost your mind. Let's see how long you can keep that attitude. As I said, if you answer even one question wrong, I'll make you take responsibility before the entire academy. Frey, hearing this, looked at Kevin without a hint of fear. Professor Kevin continued with questions in his still seething anger. Next question. With Lukas's wisdom living in student Frey's body, he leisurely answered all the questions the professor threw at him. Professor Kevin panicked, sweating profusely. Everyone around was very surprised hearing Frey's answers. Kevin had to exclaim, He answered everything correctly. This is absurd. Even the history of the Age of Light that most professors at the academy don't fully know is that really Frey the worst student of the academy. In that chaotic atmosphere, it didn't seem to affect Frey's mood. Oh, it's lunchtime. Frey stood up abruptly, looking straight at Kevin, and asked, Professor, do you have any more questions? That was just a quiz after all. I'm so hungry. Kevin's face still couldn't believe what had just happened, his whole body trembling. Just a brat. How does he know the history from 4,000 years ago so well? Frey's face dropped. Unlike Kevin, his eyes were murderous. Class dismissed. Frey quickly ran outside. His voice couldn't hide his joy. Thank you so much, Professor. Lunchtime is here. Lunchtime is here. Professor Kevin was deep in thought, his doubts still not cleared. As a witness from start to finish, Isabel was still confused. Below in the schoolyard, while Frey was happily humming, Oh, I always have an empty stomach to eat all the delicious food in the world. Suddenly from somewhere a gentle voice rang out, and it was none other than Isabel's voice. May I ask, are you heading to the cafeteria? Frey turned to look at Isabel, their eyes met. Frey didn't respond, but turned sharply and walked away, leaving Isabel alone, standing there confused. He ignored me. Isabel slowly walked, following behind Frey for a long stretch. At this point, Frey's face dropped, looking annoyed. He suddenly turned around and shouted at Isabel, Oh my God, why do you keep following me? Isabel's face was pitiful, only daring to softly reply, I'm also on my way to lunch. Not stopping there, Frey continued to shout, Why talk so formally? Isabel calmly replied, My family tradition requires formal speech, please understand. At the school cafeteria, students gradually gathered when surprisingly a table full of food appeared, covering an entire long table. Isabel, seeing this, exclaimed, You're going to eat all this food, Frey replied. Try starving for 4,000 years, you'll be like me too. Bon appetit, everyone. Isabel looked at Frey with confusion. 4,000 years, may I ask what you're talking about? Frey looked at Isabel with an annoyed face. You don't need to know, but why are you sitting here? Isabel's face clearly showed sadness, her voice soft as she answered, Please don't misunderstand, it's just that there are no empty seats around, I don't want to make things awkward. Isabel asked. Frey, you seem to know a lot about the Age of Light, right? Frey, surprised, asked Isabel back. The Age of Light. Isabel explained, 4,000 years ago, 4 great people created that era. It was named that because magic was at its golden age and most developed. Didn't you notice? Frey, hearing this, froze for a few seconds, his face showing frustration. Oh my god. Thinking about how magic hadn't progressed at all in 4,000 years, even declining. Could it be because of that demigod's interference? Isabel, seeing Frey not speaking more, continued enthusiastically talking about her great idols. The 4 greatest people in magic history are the magic martial king Kasajin, the great sage Schweizer Wilseman, the dark mage Diablo, and finally the strongest mage, the one I admire most, Lukas Trowman. He truly was a great and extraordinary person. If he were still alive, I would definitely bring gifts to propose to him. That sudden declaration made Frey freeze, unable to contain his surprise. He spit out all the food in his mouth. He burst out laughing at Isabel's confused face. Why are you laughing? Isabel asked. Frey laughed until tears came out. Haha, you're so young and already talking about marriage. Isabel embarrassedly protested. Hey, don't say that! Frey still couldn't stop laughing, replied, I understand your feelings, but this old man isn't interested in kids. Isabel angrily slammed the table and shouted, How rude! When did I ever say I'd propose to you? Their argument immediately attracted the attention of the entire cafeteria. Whispers began. What's going on over there? Isabel is having lunch with Frey. I saw her chasing after him earlier. Really, the prestigious top 2 academy student Isabel is the one pursuing. Even David gets rejected daily. Shh. A familiar figure appeared. David came from somewhere, making those students quickly cover their words. David, we didn't mean that. Ha ha ha. David's face couldn't hide his anger, his sharp eyes shooting straight at Isabel and Frey's table where the two were still chatting enthusiastically. David said through gritted teeth, That bastard is really pissing me off today. Back at the dining table, Isabel continued questioning Frey about academic knowledge. About Professor Kevin's last question, Schweizer's 3 training methods. Bulmas. Frey casually replied, Oh, that. Isabel continued, You answered assimilation, amplification, and struggle. However, as far as I know, his methods only include assimilation and amplification. She slammed her hand on the table, her voice serious. Can you teach me about the struggle method? Yes. Frey ate while asking, What level are you at now? Isabel answered, I'm just at 3 stars. Still chewing food, Frey said nonchalantly. Oh, you're talented. Already 3 stars at that age. His attitude confused Isabel. She asked back, Sorry, but I noticed the way you talk sounds like you've lived for a very long time. That's true, I have lived a very long time, Frey admitted. Isabel was confused. So you're not the same age as me? Frey wiped his mouth and answered mysteriously, Yes and no. Isabel wondered what he meant. At this point, Frey had finished his lunch. He exclaimed, Whoa, so full! Seeing him about to leave, Isabel anxiously stood up. You're done eating, right? Frey turned and reminded her, Take your time eating. Isabel shouted after him, Wait! You still haven't answered my question. What exactly is the struggle method? Frey turned back, his face expressionless. Go read books. What's in my head isn't knowledge but experience, so my answer would be difficult for you. Isabel's eyes widened in surprise. Not knowledge but experience. Her mind at this moment was full of questions about this mysterious guy. Who are you? In class, the teacher announced. Today our class will practice magic dueling. To ensure fairness, all spells must be limited to level 1. David sat far away, his mind still lingering on this morning's scene. Why the hell is Isabel talking to that idiot? Isabel sat next to Frey and continued questioning. Hey, what exactly is struggle? Professor Jane stood at the podium and declared, This class will be just like real combat. Injuries are inevitable. You will bear all consequences. All students must prepare themselves mentally before stepping onto the arena. Frey quietly asked Isabel about that teacher. She answered, You mean Professor Jane? Frey gave a compliment. She's so beautiful, Isabel surprisingly shouted. What is your head okay? How can you have dirty thoughts about a 40-year-old professor? Are you serious? But Frey didn't care, he continued admiring. Those chubby cheeks. Isabel was furious to the point of shaking. Frey still didn't stop. Look at her and learn. That's what a beautiful woman should look like. Isabel shook her head. Even your taste is ancient. Professor Jean announced the first match is between student David and student Frey. David arrogantly approached and said to Frey, How do you feel, buddy? I can't wait anymore. Actually, I was so excited I couldn't sleep. But Frey ignored him, heading straight toward Professor Jean. Before everyone's surprised eyes, he dipped her backward and said, "Finally, I found a reason to wake up from an eternal dream." Professor Jine embarrassedly called student Frey. He didn't notice and continued, "You are what I've always longed for. Please don't worry, although my body isn't as I wish, I promise my soul is mature enough to go anywhere with you." What do you think? Isabel watched that scene and turned pale, thinking, what the hell is this? Frey leaned close to Jane's face and said, "Could you give me the joy of inviting you to dinner tonight?" Professor Jine embarrassedly turned away and said, "Step back. Frey, I won't warn you twice." Frey held her in another pose and asked, "How about this then? If I win the match, will you have dinner with me?" Other students hearing Frey's cheesy lines to Professor Jane were stunned, faces dumbfounded. He's gone crazy. Professor Jane at this moment looked at Frey seriously and asked, "What are you serious with just 1-star magic like yours? You want to beat 3-star David?" She winked at Frey and said firmly, "Fine, if you win, I'll treat you to dinner." Frey turned and said, "You promised, right?" Professor Jane, seeing Frey leave, her knees buckled and she sighed. "What am I doing? I can't do something this embarrassing." "Calm down, I must not fall for a young guy." David, seeing Frey return to the arena, asked, "Are you mentally ill, Frey? I didn't know your taste was that spicy, or are you trying to make the teacher cancel our match?" Frey stretched his limbs and replied, "Why would I do that?" David confidently said. "You slept well last night, huh? Do you understand the situation right now? Listen carefully. I'll start by destroying your vocal cords. Then I'll slowly break each of your limbs. You won't be able to run or call for help. This is going to be fun." Frey ignored David's words. He just stood picking his nose. David at this point seriously pointed at Frey and said, "I already told you today will be the last day you live as a normal human being." Though Frey also retorted, "But I don't think any 1-star spell can deal that much damage." David boasted, "I'm David. I can do any fucking thing. You'll see." Professor Jine announced the match had begun. All students cheered excitedly. David entered battle saying, "Stone Fury." He summoned earth that formed into an arrow and flew up. Other students watching the match were also amazed and shouted, "Stone Fury, he's gonna use that! Isabel was also surprised. "Oh no," she said to Professor Jane. "Professor, you said we can only use 1-star magic." Professor Jane calmly replied, "He's not breaking any rules." Isabel was puzzled by what Jane said. She asked, "That magic isn't breaking rules." At the arena, David arrogantly said to Frey, "This is something only the direct heir of my family can use. Crest magic is a powerful spell if all conditions are met. Even a 1-star mage can cast it." Frey fearlessly said, "Crest magic is meant to represent a family's symbol of power, and you're using it to bully others." David asked him, "What's wrong? Scared now?" Frey mocked David. "Oh my, I'm so scared." He used magic bullet to summon a magic sphere in his hand. Students watching the match were also surprised by his technique. Frey looked at the sphere in his hand and said, "Not bad." David, seeing Frey's technique, laughed mockingly. "What the fuck, a magic bullet comparing a stream to the ocean? Magic bullet against Stone Fury. That's probably the only spell you can use, right?" Frey said nothing. He just gently flicked the sphere toward David, knocking him back and injuring him. David was seriously injured, lying trembling on the ground. Everyone, including Professor Jane, were shocked that David was defeated by Frey. David lay on the ground, tears streaming along with the wound on his neck. He could only cry without being able to speak, with only one thought in his mind. "My voice, I can't speak." Frey looked at the mess of rocks and dirt around him and said, "What a mess." From the spectator stands, an orange-haired male student said to his blonde friend beside him, "I heard this is just a C-rank magic practice class." But the blonde guy beside him said nothing, only holding a brick that had been flung from Frey and David's fight. Frey looked at David groaning on the ground and asked, "Using crest magic in a practice class is your face coated with shame-proof cream, bastard. You're disgracing your own family." David couldn't speak, could only express his anger through his face. Frey smiled dangerously and said, "Oh, what did you say earlier after destroying my vocal cords? Then what?" "Yeah, right." Frey then summoned another magic bullet and said to David, "Slowly break my limbs, right?" David was terrified, could only think, "No, I'm sorry, I was wrong, please, damn it." "My voice." Frey flicked the magic bullet at David's leg, making him scream in pain. He crawled backward and raised his hand, signaling Frey to stop. Frey asked him, "What's wrong?" "This was your own plan, does it hurt?" Isabel, from afar, witnessing everything, also covered her mouth in fear. She said, "This is too much." She called out to the professor. "Professor Jine, the winner is clear now. Please stop the match immediately." Professor Jine replied. Student David hasn't surrendered yet, Isabel worriedly said. But his voice? Professor Jine cut her off. I announced very clearly, this class will be just like real combat. On the path to becoming a mage, you must never be soft-hearted in such situations. You must learn to be ruthless in every battle. Isabel could only look at Professor Jine without saying anything. Frey looked at David with a terrifying gaze and said, if you want to bully others when the opposite happens, you must be mentally prepared for the consequences. It's because of trash running around calling themselves mages like you that the magic world has declined like this. He gritted his teeth, threatening David. You better never use magic again for a cleaner society. Frey smiled again, leaned close to David's face and said gently, just kidding, buddy, you think I'd really break your limbs? He turned and reminded David. You know I'm a kind person, so I'll only stop at your legs. Seeing Frey leave, David dared to lie flat on the ground and breathed a long sigh, but Frey turned back and said, however, you still have one leg left. That statement made David fearfully touch his injured legs. Frey used magic bullet again. He raised the sphere high, making David terrified. From the stands above, the orange-haired guy asked his blonde friend, what do you think of that freshman? His skills are pretty good. The blonde guy said nothing, but quietly left the stands. Students at school were gossiping about Frey and David's match. Someone asked, did you hear the news? David actually lost to Frey. In the past, Frey was considered the disgrace of the academy. Frey was sitting in class thinking, I must find out about the Demigods' influence. Is there a way to get information from the circle or maybe a tower? I wonder if it still exists. By the way, did I hear an interesting name earlier? He looked around for information as Isabel suddenly appeared before him. She nervously asked, Frey, you know, aren't you going to lunch? He was surprised to see her and sighed. What is it this time? What does she want from me? He asked Isabel. Can I help you with something? Isabel softly replied, actually, I was going to have lunch, you know. If you don't mind, would you like to go with me? Frey looked confused at Isabel. What is she saying? He answered Isabel. Sure, whatever. Hearing his answer, Isabel revealed a bright smile. Really, that's great. The cafeteria was busy as usual. Isabel was looking for seats while Frey ordered food. She waved at him, Frey over here. As they sat down to eat, she couldn't take her eyes off his plate. You eat a lot, Frey. He chewed food and replied, is that wrong? Isabel shook her head quickly. Oh no, not at all. It's good to have a healthy appetite. Frey continued eating. I'm thinking of where to go during the break to train. I need somewhere with strong mana concentration. Isabel's eyes sparkled. You're going to train during the break. Can I come with you? Frey looked at her strangely. Why do you want to come? Isabel excitedly said, I want to become stronger. I want to learn the struggle method from you. Frey hesitated. It's going to be dangerous. I plan to go somewhere very harsh. Isabel firmly said, I'm not afraid. Please let me come with you. Frey sighed. Fine, but I warned you. Isabel smiled brightly. Thank you, I won't let you down. Frey continued eating. By the way, I heard there's a club called Trowman Rings at the academy. Do you know anything about it? Isabel nodded. Yes, it's a prestigious club. It was named after the Great Mage Lukas Trowman. The club is led by Paran Jun. He's the top student at the academy. Frey raised an eyebrow. Trowman Rings, huh? Interesting. Isabel continued. Many students dream of joining that club. Only the elite are invited. Frey smirked. Named after me? I mean after Lukas Trowman? How amusing. Isabel looked confused. Did you say something? Frey shook his head. Nothing, just talking to myself. After lunch, Frey went to the library to research more about the current world. He thought, the circle, the magic towers, the academy system. Everything has changed so much in 4,000 years, yet magic itself has regressed. He picked up a book about the Age of Light. Let me see how history remembers us. As he read, his expression grew complicated. So much is wrong or incomplete, but at least Kasajan's and Schweizer's legacies seem to have survived. He closed the book. I need to find Schweizer's dungeon. If his research still exists, it could help me recover my strength faster. Isabel appeared at the library. There you are. I've been looking for you. Professor Jine wants to see you. Frey smiled suggestively. Oh, she wants to see me. Isabel frowned. Stop being creepy. It's about your match with David. There might be some issues. Frey sighed. Fine, let's go. At Professor Jane's office, she looked at Frey seriously. Student Frey, I need to ask you something. Frey leaned against the doorframe casually. Ask away, beautiful. Professor Jine ignored his flirting. Your magic. It's not normal for a one-star mage. Where did you learn such control? Dice? Yeah. Frey shrugged. Natural talent, I guess. Professor Jane narrowed her eyes. Don't play games with me. I've been teaching for 15 years. I've never seen a one-star mage defeat a 3-star with just magic bullet. Frey smiled mysteriously. Maybe I'm just special. Professor Jane stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. Fine, keep your secrets, but I'm watching you, Frey Blake. Frey grinned. I'd be honored if you watched me closely, Professor. Jean blushed slightly. Get out of my office. As Frey left, he thought, that was close. I need to be more careful about showing my true abilities, but it's hard to hold back after 4,000 years. Days passed, and the academy break was approaching. Frey and Isabel were preparing for their training trip to Hispania Mountains. Frey thought, Schweizer's dungeon should be somewhere in those mountains. If I can find it, I might recover my strength much faster. Isabel packed excitedly. I can't wait. This is my first real training trip. Frey looked at her bags. Why do you have so much stuff? Isabel defended herself. A woman needs many things. Frey sighed. This isn't a vacation. We're going to a monster-infested mountain range. Meanwhile, a certain blonde young man from the Jun family was reading reports about Frey's recent activities with great interest. Frey Blake, the Academy's disgrace who suddenly became powerful. Interesting. He smiled. I should meet this person. Paran Jun stood up from his desk. Things at the Academy are getting interesting. I wonder what secrets he's hiding. The next day, Frey and Isabel were ready to depart. Frey looked at Isabel's still oversized backpack. I thought I told you to pack light. Isabel pouted. This is light for me anyway. Frey facepalmed. Whatever, let's go. They headed toward the teleportation stone area. Isabel explained as they walked. We'll need to take a ship first, then use the teleportation stone to reach the mountains. Frey nodded. How much will this cost? Isabel hesitated. Well, about 10 gold coins. Frey's face turned pale. 10 gold coins. He checked his pocket. I only have 1 gold coin. Isabel looked at him in disbelief. You're joking, right? Frey shook his head sadly. The Blake family disowned Frey. This is all he had. Isabel facepalmed. Then what do we do now? Frey thought for a moment. Paran said the Trowman rings. That woman Cirrus might know something. I need to meet her. Frey called Isabel. Isabel! She answered, surprised. Yes. Frey looked at Isabel and thought, on second thought, I don't know how far the Demigods' influence extends. I won't let an innocent child get involved. I'll have to find her myself. He looked at the sea and said, or maybe I should reach 7 stars first. Isabel, surprised, said, 7 stars! Only, Professor Jane calmly smiled and said, 7 stars it would take at least 10 years, maybe even 20. Frey closed his eyes and replied, if I focus on training, maybe when the break ends, I'll have it. Professor Jane was shocked and asked, what did you just say? Then she laughed lightly. Well, it doesn't hurt to dream. Stay positive and good luck will come. Frey looked at her, then moved forward to hug her waist from behind and whispered in her ear. I don't just have big dreams, there's something else that's bigger too. Want to check? Professor Jane embarrassedly said. Wait, she thought to herself. I can't. He's a student. Only Isabel, standing behind, awkwardly cleared her throat and said to them, from now on, please watch your behavior. If you keep acting inappropriately like that, I'll report to the principal. Frey leaned on the railing and sighed. This is why I can't stand brats. Isabel, hearing him say that, angrily asked, Brat! Professor Jean embarrassedly turned away and said, I understand, Isabel angrily shouted. Excuse me, Professor Jane, what do you mean by that? Professor Jane replied, nothing at all. Only Frey remained, he thought. No need to rush, I must be careful with every move. That's the fastest path. 2 weeks later, David with an injured leg needed crutches. His voice echoed through the hallway, cursing, motherfucker. Frey, you think you can kill me, you dog? I don't fucking know what trick you pulled, but I can never lose to trash like you. Get your ass out here so I can cut you up. Frey, you think I'll let this go? Frey was calmly sitting reading a book. David came to him and continued cursing. I'll make you regret being born. I'll get my brothers to target you. Before he could finish, David saw Frey casting magic bullets, sending him flying. David lay sprawled on the ground with a deformed nose. In class, Professor Kevin told everyone, because student David had an accident breaking his nose, his family took him home for emergency treatment. Students murmured, broken nose. Professor Kevin said, that's right, he'll need nose surgery. Frey walked in the hallway, looking around, thinking, how boring. Well, I didn't expect much from kids, but at least the atmosphere should be more lively. I heard this is a prestigious school. So frustrating. I want more real combat to practice controlling mana flow in my body. Suddenly someone called out, Frey. Hey, white-haired kid over there, stop. I heard David was mopped by you, right? Let's talk. I heard you're good at magic, brat. A large blonde student walked up to Frey and said, You little shit, do you know who I am? I'm Alex Jimmy. I'm your senior, and you should worship me like a god. Street trash, like you one scratch from me and you're dead. What did you do to David? You touch my bros and you're fucking dead. You hear me? You broke his leg and nose, you'll pay, you son of a bitch. Frey looked bored. He thought, is this guy threatening me? He turned to look at the people behind, then asked, Just to be clear, you're bullying me, right? Alex raised his hand to hit Frey and said, Huh? You talk back to your senior like that, you piece of shit? Frey was furious to the point of darkness. He thought, these stupid kids. Alex, not seeing him speak, asked harshly, What, you think beating David made you hot shit? You know I made it to the quarterfinals of the Great Magic Tournament last time. You know what that means? Frey yawned, showing boredom, while Alex kept rambling. It means this day next year is your death anniversary, Frey said to Alex. Bringing your gang to bark at someone smaller than you impressive. Alex said, Don't worry, they're just here to watch. Why would we bother ganging up on a weakling? Frey deployed magic bullet, everyone around was injured and flew away. The rest seeing that were scared and screamed. One of Alex's arrogant lackeys said, You cowardly dog, he was still talking, you can't attack while someone's speaking, son of a bitch. Frey looked at them and thought, a bunch of idiots. Then Frey said to Alex's group, my bad, it's just I don't fucking know why I'm wasting time here watching you kids play. Those people hearing Frey say that were surprised and asked, What kids, you're dead, aren't you? A fierce-looking guy rushed forward saying, I'm the firstborn of the Deweyrat family. Another wearing a hat also said, I'm the second son of the Pinnacle family. Frey said, Magic bullet, and joined them. With that, he used magic bullet to injure and send them flying. The remaining ones charged and shouted, Get him, I am! Those people were also hit by Frey's magic bullet and lay flat on the ground. The next cases who said I am were all silenced by Frey's magic bullet 3 times in a row. Frey sat on one of them, looked around and thought, how boring, they can't do anything except introduce themselves. At this rate, they'll drag me down. He lay flat on a desk and mumbled, Meaningless, so fucking useless. Suddenly, Isabel's voice rang out. What have you been doing lately? Frey tiredly raised his head and asked. Oh, it's you, Isabel said. I heard wherever you go, you leave piles of bodies with magic bullet. People are starting to call you the bullet terrorist now. He heard that and could only think embarrassedly. Bullet terrorist, that's so embarrassing. Frey lay on the desk squirming. What can I do? I don't have the chance to use any skill stronger than magic bullet. Isabel looked at Frey lying on the desk, her heart fluttering at his beauty. Frey asked her, So what do you want? She replied, I followed your advice. When practicing magic circles, I realized I could increase its effectiveness with ferret blood. The idea of mixing ferret blood with magic essence in a 7-3 ratio really was a breakthrough, Frey replied. Oh, try using half-dragon blood instead, the effect is even better. Half-dragon blood saturates magic better, Isabel said to him. That's right, this is a huge achievement. Then she hesitated and asked, So what will you teach me next? Frey sat up, looked at her, and thought, What's this? When did I become her tutor? Well, whatever, she does have talent if I guide her properly. Who knows, she might reach 7 stars or even 8, Frey called her. Isabel, I'll tell you about the struggle method, Isabel happily asked back. Really? Frey said to her, This break I'll go train somewhere far away. If you come with me, you'll see the struggle method firsthand. However, this will be a journey where you might lose your life. If you're not confident, then you can... Isabel happily agreed immediately. I'll go with you. Frey was also surprised by her quick decisiveness. Isabel firmly said, Please let me go with you. When the break came, Isabel and Frey headed to the training location together. Isabel carried a large backpack. Frey saw that and said to her, We're not going camping, what's all that stuff? Isabel stuttered. Women have many things they need. You wouldn't understand. Then she blushed and asked, So where are we going? Frey scratched his head and said, I'm not sure, I'm planning to go to the Hispania Mountains. Isabel gasped in shock. Hispania Mountains? That's not just mountains. Don't you know it's so dangerous it's called the Monster Paradise? Frey calmly asked. Do you know how to get there? Isabel rummaged through her bag and said, You really can always surprise me. She took out a map and gave it to Frey. It takes a day to get there to Hispania by using the teleportation stone. I heard the mountain path is very harsh and full of dangerous monsters. Frey asked her, So are you scared? She put on her backpack and replied, "Please don't underestimate me. I didn't expect our trip to be this peaceful since we started." On the way, Frey walked behind her and asked, "But what was that thing you just mentioned, a teleportation stone?" Isabel said. "Just as its name suggests, it's a very convenient device for long-distance travel." Frey curiously said, "Something that convenient exists? It's different from 4,000 years ago then." Isabel, surprised, asked, 4,000 years ago? Frey was lost in thought. While magic has degraded, technology has progressed. So that's why students lack skills. They even commercialize teleportation stones. Quite a bold idea. Isabel turned back and said to Frey, "Teleportation stones are really convenient, but they're quite expensive." Frey, surprised, asked, "Huh, is it expensive?" Isabel said, "You didn't know." Frey still didn't have an answer, so he continued asking, "How much?" Isabel said, "Since the distance between the capital and Hispania is quite far. It will cost about 10 gold coins." Frey, hearing the expensive price, stammered, 10 gold coins. He turned back and searched his pocket, thinking, "My entire fortune is just 1 gold coin. Frey, what should I do now? A noble like him and like this? Wait, Isabel is also a noble. She must have a lot of money." Not seeing Frey respond, Isabel asked again, "Are you not feeling well?" Suddenly, Frey danced crazily, then spoke to her sweetly. "Dear kind soul, how much money do you have on you?" Seeing his unusual behavior, Isabel, surprised, asked, "What's wrong with you?" She seemed to understand the problem, and said, "Comfort makes people lazy. No way I'm bringing travel expenses on a training trip." Frey pointed back the way they came and said, "Go back, go home, and bring money up here." Isabel firmly said, "No way, earning travel expenses is also part of training." Frey shouted, "You're really saying that with that huge bag on you?" Isabel wouldn't back down. She shouted, "This and those are different things. Women need many things." Frey sighed. "Enough, just stop." He walked on dejectedly and thought, "Everything will be fine if we reach the capital first, hopefully." Frey asked Isabel, "Have you ever worked a part-time job?" Isabel answered, "Never." When they reached the harbor, both Frey and Isabel showed surprised expressions seeing the large ship. Frey asked, This is free," Isabel answered. "Students get free passage, that's why there are so many students here." Frey, hearing that, showed joy and asked, "Hopefully there's good food. I wonder if they have meat." Isabel said, "I heard they only serve high-quality food." Frey was still daydreaming. Meat. I'm drooling just thinking about it. I absolutely love our academy, seriously." When it was their turn to board, the ticket checker said, "This ship is full." Frey, shocked, asked, "What? The next trip is in 4 days." Frey, hearing this, almost fainted on the spot. But the ticket checker added, "If you don't mind, you could take the Cortez temporarily." Frey looked at the smaller ship beside them and said, "Not too bad. Although not bad, I feel sad looking to the right." Isabel said, "That's human nature." The ticket checker explained about the route. "It will stop at Ganbul on the way, but you'll still reach the capital within 5 days, and it's definitely free for students like you." Frey scratched his head. "All right, thanks." On the ship were 3 fierce-looking men eating dinner and talking. One with a scar on his lip said, "Everything is ready." "Captain," another with no pupil said, "Good, tonight we go. Let's make it a memorable trip." The one-eyed man bit his meat and laughed. The one called Captain asked the one-eyed man, "Why did you gouge out your own eye? Looks painful." The one-eyed man replied, "What's the matter, Captain? Just for fun. Pirates usually have one eye, right? It's cool." The captain shouted, "So that's why you gouged out a perfectly working eyeball." "Are you insane?" the scarred one said. "Come on, let's get to business, everyone." The captain pointed at the map and said, "Today's target in the middle of the vast sea, a cruel plan is being drawn. The ship will stop at Ganbul. We'll target the moment they pass through the Oskal Islands." The one-eyed man grinned evilly and said, "Tonight will be a big haul. By the way, what's on that ship?" The captain frowned and replied, "You and your eyeball. If you don't want me to crush your last eyeball into pieces, listen carefully. On the ship, there's everything. Old, young, big, small, nobles, commoners." In another scene on the ship Cortez, the elegant captain welcomed the new guests. "Welcome to the Cortez. I am Captain Martinez." Isabel, one of the 2 passengers, replied gratefully, "Please take care of us if not for this ship." "We would have been stuck in the city for 4 days." She observed around and added, "Although this ship doesn't look that fancy, there are also too few passengers." "Is something wrong?" Captain Martinez explained reassuringly. "This ship passes through the Oskal Islands, where pirates occasionally appear." Isabel couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Pirates?" The captain quickly dispelled her worry. No need to worry, although there are only 2 warships escorting us. There's a 4-star mage on each escort ship, and of course they're mages from the Magic Academy. No matter how many pirates come for us, they won't succeed. Hearing this, Isabel felt much more at ease. 4-star mages, that's reassuring, Captain Martinez confidently added. Even if those bastards had brains, there's no way they could get past my 2 warships. But the peace was quickly shattered. Panicked screams echoed throughout the ship. Pirates, the pirates are here! A huge ship appeared looming from the mist, horrifying Captain Martinez. That's a pirate ship. A crew member ran to report breathlessly. Captain Martinez, something's wrong! The warships, they've all been sunk! The ship plunged into terror. Pirate ship! Someone desperately reported the fate of the escort ships. All sunk! Captain Martinez couldn't believe his ears. Impossible! They sank 2 warships. That's not something ordinary pirates can do. Meanwhile, on the pirate ship, the atmosphere was ecstatic. A few minutes earlier, a subordinate had reported, Captain, they're in our sights. The Cortez ship is here. The one-eyed man was about to speak, but was cut off by the captain. Shut up, he will handle them for us. But then even the one-eyed man was horrified seeing the 2 escort warships. There are 2 warships there, what do we do? The captain remained strangely calm. Shut up, he will handle them for us. He looked toward the ship's bow where a mysterious mage in black stood, then introduced proudly. That's a special guest for today, very hard to invite. The mage with a demonic face spoke philosophically. In this society, hard work beats laziness. Those who don't work don't deserve to eat, the captain added with a reverent tone. Remember well, that's Lich Lord Dullard. He's a special person who can help us in this raid. The demon-faced mage muttered again. Otherwise you can only eat shit. The one-eyed man showed admiration but got smacked on the head by the captain. You idiot, he rambled on. What the fuck? I only heard about them, but seeing it for real gives me the creeps. It's like I'm having a nightmare. I thought our captain would finally go insane when he said we'd attack the Cortez being escorted by warships. But the captain standing beside threatened. Keep talking, but you might lose your other eye. The one-eyed man quickly flattered. I didn't expect you to make a pact with a lich. Captain, you're truly a pioneer. You paved the way for pirates to be praised. The pirate captain laughed cunningly. You think so? That's right. Suddenly the lich let out a yell. Ice spear. A huge magic circle appeared on Martinez's warship, shocking the mages. What is that? The 2 mages fought hard, but the ice spears kept launching, severely damaging the ship. Witnessing that scene, the pirate captain laughed gleefully. Let's go make some money, his subordinates shouted in unison. The pirate captain approached the lich and praised him. Truly impressive! Lord Dullard, you destroyed those large warships with just 1 strike. The lich just turned and grunted, making the captain think fearfully. Damn, I'm so scared. The lich looked at Martinez's ship and spoke coldly. There are 3 ships. I definitely summoned 3 ice spears, but how is that ship still floating? The captain quickly knelt down with clasped hands. Lord Dullard, it's not that we're disrespecting you. I'm sure I told you about our situation that you shouldn't attack that ship. We need to use the passengers as hostages. The lich grunted again, making the captain quickly apologize. Sorry, my fault, he thought fearfully. This bonehead is so grumpy. The lich explained, I attacked them to prevent escape or resistance. There will be bloodshed if they resist more, but it still wasn't strong enough to sink the ship. The captain still didn't understand and asked, What are you trying to say? The lich turned his head and said, There's something unusual on that ship. Back on Martinez's ship, the captain was trying to calm everyone. Students, please stay calm. Please follow the crew's orders. Amid the chaotic crowd, a person wearing a hood covering their face sat in a corner of the ship looking extremely mysterious. Isabel worriedly said to Frey, The warships were destroyed. Seeing her fear, Frey patted her head and reassured her calmly, They're just pirates. More importantly, what worries me more? Hearing Frey speak so casually, Isabel thought, Just pirates. Frey continued, There were 3 ice spears, but the one aimed at this ship disappeared mid-air. Isabel worriedly asked, Did you intervene? He replied, It wasn't me. Frey thought, although I could sense the mana fluctuation, I couldn't stop it. Frey, I'm not that different from that kid. He recalled 4,000 years ago. My mind went blank the moment I felt the Demigods' curse. The memories of being sealed for 4,000 years also put me in a similar state. Frey suddenly trembled, clenching his fist. Although they're similar, it doesn't feel like a demigod's. That's human mana, Isabel asked. If it wasn't you, then who blocked it? Frey calmly answered. Who knows? Although we don't know who it was, we should thank that person for protecting the ship. The ship was attacked again, making everyone scream in terror. The pirates had boarded the ship. Pirates, the pirates are invading, help me, they're pirates, Mom. The pirate captain's men had taken over the ship. The one-eyed man observed and said, "The ship doesn't look that big, but there sure are a lot of passengers. Several people from noble families. 2, 3. About 40 of them. We can spend the rest of our lives without working." The pirate captain spoke to everyone on the ship. "Good evening, my dear students with lots of money and big dreams. We're friends, right? And we are the Lucifer Pirates." On the ship, Captain Martinez confronted the pirate. "Do you know what you've just done and what those 2 ships were?" The pirate captain arrogantly replied. "Of course I know. You're a treasure trove full of rich families' relatives." The pirate subordinates, hearing this, laughed in delight. Suddenly, a student stood up and yelled at the pirates, "How dare you filthy pirates speak like that?" The pirate captain was stunned, seeing someone bold enough to say that. The student continued, "It seems you don't know what you've gotten into. This ship is full of excellent students. One day they'll become great mages. Unfortunately, you've chosen the wrong ship to attack." Captain Martinez tried to stop that student. "Wait!" The student was about to cast a spell and said, "In the name of justice, the power of friendship will conquer all." But before he could do anything, the pirate's knife was already at his throat. The pirate captain said, "You don't know what you've gotten into, kid. You think we'd wait for you to finish your chant before attacking?" The half-blonde student looked at the knife, trembling in fear. While everyone was panicking, Frey noticed something and thought, the knife should have pierced his throat. But its trajectory was slightly off. People screamed in panic. "Why does it have to be this ship? Help!" Frey observed a hooded person and speculated, "Could it be him you blocked the attack aimed at this ship?" The hooded person came before the half-blonde student and said, "They're not people you can face. Don't get yourself in trouble. Just sit down obediently." The one-eyed man asked the pirate captain, "Captain, why did you miss that opportunity?" The captain replied, "Shut up. I deliberately missed because they're valuable hostages. Now I won't bother you for long." After speaking, the pirate held 3 knives ready to act. He said, "I'll be serious and we'll end this quickly." He aimed at a person wearing glasses and said, "All right, you 4 eyes, you're up." The bespectacled student fearfully collapsed to the ground and trembled. "Please don't." The student was so scared he wet his pants. The pirate covered his nose and said, "Oh my, our baby is being naughty." Jim, then he ordered his subordinate, "Give him a bath." The subordinate quickly replied, "Yes, sir." The scarred pirate hoisted the bespectacled guy on his shoulder and said, "Pretty heavy." The fully hooded person suddenly spoke up, "Stop!" But it was too late. The bespectacled guy had been thrown overboard. He thrashed in the water and screamed, "Help, I can't swim. Please save me." The pirate captain chuckled. "How fun. Tell me, is there anyone who wants to save your friend? Please go ahead. But if you dare move from here, all of you will be swimming with him. Who knows, maybe you'll become fish food." All the students were terrified. The hooded person suddenly jumped down. Everyone was surprised watching that person pull the drowning one up with powerful force. 8-star magic. The hooded person gently set the bespectacled student down and covered him with their cloak to keep him warm. The pirate captain's eyes gleamed greedily. 8-star mage. My God, whoever catches that person will have everything they want. His subordinates were scared. "Captain, you're insane. If we mess with an 8-star mage, we'll die for sure." Frey looked at the hooded person surprised. "He's quite skilled." Isabel looked at the hooded person and asked Frey, "Do you know who that is?" Frey shook his head. "No clue." But then he noticed a ring on the person's hand, a symbol he knew well. That ring. The Trowman rings. The hooded person turned to the students and spoke, "Everyone calm down, I'll handle these pirates." The pirate captain laughed. "Big words for someone alone against our crew. Lord Dullard, we need your help." The Lich stepped forward, dark energy swirling around him. "An 8-star mage, interesting. I haven't had a good fight in a while." The hooded person's eyes narrowed. "A Lich, seems these pirates have some unusual connections." They raised their hand, magic circles forming. Frey watched intently. "This person's control is exceptional. Who are they?" The 2 powerful beings clashed, sending shockwaves across the ship. Isabel grabbed Frey's arm. "We need to take cover." But Frey stood firm, analyzing the battle. "No, this is valuable combat experience." The hooded person skillfully countered the Lich's attacks, their movements fluid and precise. "You're strong, but not strong enough." The Lich growled, "Don't underestimate me." He unleashed a powerful dark spell. The hooded person dodged and retaliated with a burst of light magic. Frey's eyes widened. Light magic against a lich. Smart choice. The battle continued, both sides exchanging fierce blows. Finally, the hooded person landed a decisive hit, sending the lich crashing onto the pirate ship. The pirate captain panicked. Lord Dullard! The lich struggled to stand, severely wounded. Retreat, we're retreating! The pirates scrambled back to their ship. As the pirate ship fled, the hooded person turned to the passengers. Is everyone all right? Captain Martinez bowed deeply. Thank you, you saved us all. The students cheered, relieved to be safe. Frey walked toward the hooded person, curious about their identity. That was impressive. Mind telling me who you are? The hooded person looked at Frey for a moment, then removed their hood, revealing a handsome young man with blonde hair. I'm Paran Jun, nice to meet you. Frey was surprised. Paran Jun, the leader of Trowman Rings. Paran smiled slightly. You know of me. Isabel excitedly stepped forward. Of course you're famous, the top student at the academy. Frey studied Paran carefully. So you're the one who founded a club named after Lukas Trowman? Paran nodded. Lukas Trowman is my idol, the greatest mage in history. Frey smirked internally. If only you knew you're talking to him right now. Paran asked, and you are? Frey Blake. Paran's eyes showed recognition. Frey Blake, I've heard about you, the one who defeated David with just magic bullet. Isabel proudly added, he's amazing. He knows so much about the Age of Light. Paran looked at Frey with renewed interest. Is that so? I'd love to discuss history with you sometime. Frey shrugged. Maybe, if I have time. Isabel nudged him. Frey, be more polite. Paran laughed softly. It's fine, I appreciate honesty. Too many people act fake around me because of my family name. The ship continued its journey now under Paran's protection. Frey thought, Paran Jun, he's quite capable. Maybe I should keep an eye on him. As night fell, the students gathered on deck, still shaken from the pirate attack. Paran spoke to them. We'll arrive at the capital tomorrow. Get some rest, I'll keep watch. Isabel yawned. I'm exhausted. Frey nodded. Go sleep, I'll stay up a bit longer. Isabel reluctantly went to rest. Frey stood at the ship's railing looking at the stars. Paran approached him. Can't sleep? Frey shook his head. Just thinking. Paran stood beside him. About what? Frey was silent for a moment. About how much the world has changed. Paran looked at him curiously. You say strange things, like you've lived for centuries. Frey chuckled. Maybe I have. Paran laughed, thinking it was a joke. You're an interesting person, Frey Blake. The next morning, the ship arrived at the capital. The port was bustling with activity. Isabel's eyes sparkled. So this is the capital. Frey looked around, memories flooding back. It's changed so much from 4,000 years ago, but some landmarks remain. Paran said his goodbyes. I have matters to attend to, but Frey, I meant what I said. You should visit the Jun family. Frey nodded casually. Maybe when I'm free. Isabel was exasperated. Frey! Paran just smiled and walked away. Now in the capital, Frey and Isabel wandered through the streets. First, we need supplies for our trip to Hispania Mountains. Isabel nodded. Right, and we need to find the teleportation stone. They entered a shop selling adventure gear. The shopkeeper greeted them. Welcome, looking for something specific. Frey looked around. Equipment for mountain climbing and protection against monsters. The shopkeeper's eyes lit up. Ah, adventurers, I have just what you need. He showed them various items. Isabel was drawn to a beautiful dress. Oh, this is lovely, Frey sighed. We're going to a dangerous mountain, not a ball. She pouted. Can't a girl look nice while training? Frey face-palmed. Just get practical gear. After much debate, they finally purchased appropriate supplies. Frey also bought a spatial bag. Convenient. I should have had these 4,000 years ago. Isabel looked at him strangely. You keep mentioning 4,000 years. What's that about? Frey waved it off. Nothing. Just talking to myself. They headed toward the teleportation stone plaza. With Paran's money, we can finally afford the trip. Isabel felt a bit guilty. I'm sorry I didn't bring any money, Frey sighed. It's fine, just remember next time. At the plaza, a large crowd had gathered. An announcer called out, the teleportation process is about to begin. All passengers, please stay within the magic circle. Frey was fascinated. Impressive. They've divided it into different zones. Isabel explained, each zone goes to a different destination. They found the zone for Hispania and stepped into the circle. The magic activated and light enveloped them. In an instant, they were transported to the base of the Hispania Mountains. Frey breathed in the fresh mountain air. We're here! Isabel looked up at the towering peaks. It's beautiful and terrifying. The mountains stretched endlessly into the clouds. Frey's eyes showed determination. "Somewhere in these mountains is Schweizer's dungeon. That's where we need to go," Isabel asked. "Schweizer the Great Sage from the Age of Light." Frey nodded. "His research could help me recover my strength." Isabel looked confused. "Recover? Were you injured?" Frey hesitated. "Something like that." They began their ascent. The path was treacherous, full of steep cliffs and dangerous wildlife, but Frey navigated with ease as if he'd been here before. Isabel struggled to keep up. "How do you know the way so well?" Frey answered without looking back. "I have good instincts." In truth, he remembered this place from 4,000 years ago. Though the landscape had changed, the fundamental geography remained. They set up camp as night fell. Isabel was exhausted. "I've never climbed anything this difficult." Frey started a fire. "Get used to it. Tomorrow will be even harder." Isabel groaned. "Can't wait." Despite her complaints, she was determined to continue. Frey looked up at the stars. 4,000 years, and these same stars still shine. He felt a mix of nostalgia and loneliness. Isabel noticed his expression. "Frey, what's wrong?" He shook his head. "Nothing. Just remembering old times." She sat beside him. "You know you can tell me. I'm your travel partner after all." Frey looked at her innocent face. "Maybe someday I will." For now, he kept his secrets. The next morning, they continued climbing. The terrain grew increasingly difficult. Suddenly, a pack of monsters appeared. "Mountain wolves!" Isabel summoned her magic. "I'll handle this." Frey watched her fight, assessing her abilities. "Not bad, but her form needs work." He stepped in to help when she was overwhelmed. With a single magic bullet, he dispatched the remaining wolves. Isabel panted. "Thanks, they were tougher than I expected." Frey nodded. "This is what real combat is like. Academy training can only prepare you so much." She understood and vowed to improve. Days passed as they ventured deeper into the mountains. They encountered various monsters and traps. Each battle was a learning experience. Isabel's skills improved noticeably, Frey observed with satisfaction. She has potential. With proper guidance, she could become powerful. Finally, they reached a hidden cave entrance. Frey's eyes lit up. "This is it, Schweizer's dungeon." Isabel was amazed. "How did you know it was here?" Frey just smiled mysteriously. "Let's go." They entered the dark cave, ready for whatever awaited. Inside, ancient magic illuminated the walls. Frey recognized Schweizer's signature style. "Just as I remember." Isabel was in awe. "This place is incredible. The magical inscriptions alone are worth studying for years." Frey moved confidently through the dungeon, disabling traps with ease. "Schweizer was paranoid about security, but I know all his tricks." They reached the central chamber. A massive crystal floated in the center, pulsing with pure mana. Isabel gasped. "What is that?" Frey approached it reverently. "A mana core, Schweizer's greatest creation. This will help me recover." He placed his hand on the crystal. Power surged through him. Memories of his past life flashed before his eyes. Isabel watched in amazement as magical energy swirled around Frey. His aura intensified, becoming visible to the naked eye. "What's happening to him?" She wanted to help, but felt paralyzed by the overwhelming power. Frey focused his mind. "This energy, I can use it to break through my limitations." He concentrated, channeling the mana into his body. His magic level began to rise. 5 stars, 6 stars, approaching 7. Sweat poured down his face from the exertion. Finally, the process was complete. Frey opened his eyes, now glowing with power. 7 stars, I've finally reached it." Isabel was speechless. "7 stars? In just a few days?" She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Frey flexed his hands, feeling the new power coursing through him. "This is still far from my peak, but it's a good start." He turned to Isabel. "Now it's your turn." She blinked. "My turn?" Frey gestured to the crystal. "The remaining energy can help you advance. This is the struggle method, pushing past your limits through intense pressure." Isabel hesitated, then steeled her resolve. "I trust you, Frey." She placed her hand on the crystal. Energy flooded into her, and she screamed as her body struggled to contain it. Frey watched closely, ready to intervene if needed. "Don't fight it. Accept the power. Let it flow through you." Isabel followed his guidance, gradually adapting to the energy. After an intense few minutes, she collapsed, breathing heavily. Did it work?" Frey smiled. "Check your mana level." Isabel focused inward and gasped. 4 stars, I advanced to 4 stars. She was overwhelmed with joy. Frey nodded approvingly. "Not bad for a first attempt. With more training, you can go even further." They left the dungeon, both significantly stronger than when they entered. Isabel looked at Frey with newfound respect. "Thank you, Frey, for everything." He waved it off. Don't thank me yet, the real training starts now. They descended the mountain ready to return to the academy, but Frey knew his journey was far from over. 7 stars is just the beginning. To fight the demigods, I need to reach 9 stars and beyond. The path ahead was long and dangerous, but Lukas Trowman, now living as Frey Blake, was determined to see it through. Back at the capital, they prepared to return to Westroad Academy. The break was almost over. Isabel was nervous. Everyone will be shocked when they see how much we've improved. Frey shrugged. Let them be shocked. They used the teleportation stone to return to the academy. As expected, their arrival caused quite a stir. Is that Frey Blake? He feels different somehow. And Isabel too, her mana aura has changed. Professor Jane was the first to approach them. Her eyes widened as she sensed their power levels. Frey, what happened during the break, your mana level? Frey smiled casually. Just did some training. Professor Jane was speechless. Training? You jumped from 1 star to 7 in just a few weeks. Whispers spread through the crowd. 7 stars. That's impossible. He must be cheating somehow. Frey ignored the gossip. Professor, I believe I owe you a dinner. Professor Jane blushed furiously. You actually won the bet. Isabel face-palmed. Of all the things to remember, Frey grinned. A promise is a promise. The news of Frey's miraculous advancement spread throughout the academy. Some were skeptical, others were impressed. But one person was particularly interested. Perrin June heard the news and smiled. Frey Blake. Just as I thought, he's special. He decided it was time to officially invite Frey to join Trowman Rings. Someone like him belongs with us. Meanwhile, in the shadows, someone else was watching. A student who reached 7 stars in weeks. This requires investigation. The principal of Westroad Academy, Cirrus Trisnine, looked at the report on his desk. Frey Blake of the Blake family. The one who was disowned for being talentless. How interesting that he's now showing such power. He called his secretary. Arrange a meeting with Frey Blake. I'd like to speak with him personally. Back in his dorm room, Frey contemplated his next steps. I've gotten stronger, but I still need more information about the demigods. The circle might have answers, or perhaps the magic towers. I need to investigate without drawing too much attention. A knock came at his door. Frey, are you there? It was Isabel's voice. Come in, he called. She entered excitedly. Frey, you won't believe it. I received an invitation to join the Trowman Rings at unmatched. Frey raised an eyebrow. Did you now? She nodded enthusiastically. And apparently you got one too. She handed him an elegant envelope. Frey opened it and read the contents. An invitation from Perrin June himself. Will you join? Isabel asked eagerly. Frey considered it. The Trowman Rings could provide valuable resources and connections. Why not? It could be interesting. Isabel cheered. Great, we'll be members of the most prestigious club. Frey smirked internally. A club named after me, led by someone who idolizes me. The irony is not lost. The next day they attended the Trowman Rings meeting. Perrin welcomed them warmly. Frey, Isabel, glad you could make it. Frey looked around the club room. It was filled with talented students, all eager to improve their magic. Perrin introduced them. Everyone, these are our new members, Frey Blake and Isabel Trisnine. Please make them feel welcome. Some members were skeptical. Frey Blake wasn't he the worst student. Others recognized his recent achievements. He's 7 stars now, show some respect. Frey remained unbothered by the mixed reactions. He was here for a purpose, not for popularity. Perrin pulled him aside. Frey, I've been meaning to ask, would you consider visiting my family? My father would like to meet you. Frey thought about it. The Jun family, they might have information I need. He replied, maybe when I'm free. Perrin smiled. You always say that, but I'll hold you to it. Isabel approached, looking excited. Frey, this club is amazing. They have access to rare magical texts and training facilities. Frey nodded. Use them well. Knowledge is power. She ran off to explore more, leaving Frey with his thoughts. Perrin asked, by the way, how did you advance so quickly? 7 stars in a few weeks is unprecedented. Frey answered vaguely. Found a good training spot. Perrin knew he wasn't getting the full story, but didn't push. Well, whatever you did, it worked. I look forward to seeing what you can do. Frey thought, you have no idea what I'm capable of. Isabel shouted in surprise, what are you, crazy? That's the Jun family. The Jun family. There are so many nobles out there trying to approach them in any way possible. And here you are answering maybe when I'm free. Frey suddenly thought of something. He turned to Perrin June. Oh, right, Perrin June. Could you lend me some money, about 20 gold? Isabel angrily said through gritted teeth. Frey, don't you dare! Seeing Frey turn around, Isabel snapped. What is it this time? How can you ask for money using that excuse? Can't you act like a mage with some dignity? Frey shot back sarcastically. Oh, please. That's hilarious. Whose fault do you think it is that we're in this situation? Who told you not to bring a single coin? Seeing the tension, Paranjun raised his hand to intervene. He politely asked, I don't mind asking, but why do you need money? Frey quickly answered, to use the teleportation stone to get to Hispania. It's very expensive. Isabel tried to stop him, but it was too late. Paranjun looked surprised. Teleportation stone, so that's why you came to the capital. As he spoke, he opened his bag. Here, as a token of gratitude, you don't need to pay it back. With that, he gave them 3 gold coins each worth 100, making both Frey and Isabel gasp in amazement. Wow! Wow, 300 gold! Embarrassedly accepting the money, Frey mumbled to Paranjun. Come on, don't do that. I only need 20 gold for the trip. Paranjun waved his hand. It's fine, just pocket change. Take it all. Frey thought to himself, rich and kind-hearted, amazing. As they walked through the streets with Paranjun, he made conversation. That's why I wanted to invite you over, and when I get home I have to talk to my fiancé too. I'm sure there'll be a lot to prepare. Frey cut in. Stop showing off. Paran touched his hair awkwardly. Don't say that it doesn't sound good. My father decides everything and makes me follow. Frey quickly asked. So does the person you mentioned have a sister? Paran explained. I heard she's from the Luan Kingdom. Frey showed enthusiasm. That doesn't matter, whoever she is, she's fine. From behind, Isabel shouted, Please have some dignity! As they walked, Paran continued, She's from the Aquarid family. They say it's a special family that's produced countless excellent knights. But I'm not sure if we'll get along. I'm sure they'll be disappointed to learn the groom is a weak mage like me. Isabel immediately spoke up, praising him. Should the top student really say that you're not weak at all? Frey suddenly called out to Paranjun. Paran, don't lose confidence. Being handsome is 9 points, strength is just 1. Paran smiled gratefully. Then suddenly he burst out laughing, surprising Frey and Isabel. Paran explained, Hey, I don't know how long it's been since I laughed like this. You two are really funny. When they reached the bridge, Paran said goodbye to his 2 new friends. He said, Frey, I have to go now. You must visit my family sometime. I don't want to live the rest of my life as a jerk who can't show gratitude. Frey replied, Of course, when I'm free. Isabel once again was shocked by Frey's answer. Watching the 2 say goodbye, she couldn't help but feel moved, thinking, what a beautiful scene, as if they've been friends for years. After parting with Paran, Frey and Isabel continued their journey. Frey remarked to her, He's really a good person. That's what a noble should be like. Isabel agreed, Truly wonderful. Frey thought about the money Paran gave them and smiled. Deep pockets too. Hearing that, Isabel's face darkened. Yes, I'm terribly sorry for not having a single coin. Just like that, the 2 stood arguing on the bridge. After transforming, Isabel had amazed everyone. She shyly asked, How do I look dazzling? Frey looked at her somewhat flashy appearance and pouted in disapproval. Go home and take that off. She didn't understand asking why. As if hitting a nerve, he shouted right at her face. Why the hell would you dress up like Lady Gaga to train on a mountain? Pick something light and easy to move in, please. Being told off like that, she fumed, her face turning red. She shouted back with all her might. I know that, but look at these clothes. What woman wouldn't love them? He scolded her again. What right do you have to talk back to me? The shopkeeper standing nearby quickly intervened. Perhaps your companion isn't used to minimalist fashion. Meanwhile, he glared at her, thinking, I shouldn't have brought her along. Isabel pouted and stomped off elsewhere. A while later, they finally finished shopping and left the store. Her outfit had been changed to something much more comfortable and active, though she didn't seem very happy about it. Frey raised the bag in his hand, happily saying, Who knew this world had something so wonderful, a spatially enchanted bag that can hold 10 times more than it looks from the outside. While he was excited about his new item, he heard her teasing voice. First time seeing this country bumpkin, nothing impressive, he frowned and retorted. If you don't love it, don't be sarcastic. She shot back nonsense. Suddenly, Frey sighed. Besides the teleportation stone, modern technology has progressed a lot compared to my time. The population has probably increased dramatically too. However, it also hasn't changed much from what I imagined. Saying there hasn't been much progress compared to 4,000 years ago wouldn't be wrong. I suspect that Demigod has interfered somewhat with humanity's development, but how does he not want humans to become stronger? They treat humans like mindless insects with no potential. On their way out of town, looking at the bustling street scene around him, questions kept popping up in his mind. Walking beside him, Isabel suddenly interrupted his thoughts. What are you thinking about? Your face is so tense. We're at the teleportation stone now. He told himself he must be determined to find the answers himself. Before them was a large plaza with glowing stones arranged elaborately above. The announcer stood on a high platform calling through a speaker. The teleportation process is about to begin. Oh, so those teleportation things are those stones? That's so cool. Isabel, standing beside him, felt embarrassed hearing him talk. Stop it, you're making me cringe. Many people were standing waiting for teleportation. Frey turned to remind Isabel, be careful. Those who aren't used to it will feel dizzy after teleporting. She irritably snapped back, I don't need you to remind me, I know. Before she could finish, the machine activated teleportation, making her only manage to say, ugh. They passed through a spatial tunnel with blinding light ahead. The machine was in an undefined space, and soon after it successfully completed the teleportation. Frey looked up at the orange sky before him. We've arrived, Hispania. It was a town at the foot of the mountain. He quickly noticed this place hadn't changed at all in 4,000 years. He turned and asked, so, where do we go now, Isabel? As for her, she was in bad shape, sitting in a corner, continuously throwing up. He could only stand and watch while saying, I told you, if your mental fortitude isn't strong, dizziness is normal. She still managed to argue back, it's because I didn't eat breakfast. He just stayed silent, not bothering to continue. While she was vomiting, she called out, what, don't look down on me. Frey at this moment sighed, thinking he shouldn't have brought this kid along. They entered a luxurious inn. Inside, guests were bustling, eating and chatting. The counter manager was an old man, carefully polishing each fine wine bottle on the display shelf. Suddenly, a voice reached his ears. 5 portions of bread, with meat, lots of meat, please. Ah, and some beer too. He was slightly startled by the sudden call. The ones who just ordered were none other than our 2 main characters. Contrasting the male lead's enjoying expression, the female lead stammered, beer, beer. Then she bristled. Frey, why are you drinking beer? You're still a student. He closed his eyes, not bothering to argue. Be quiet. Do you know how long it's been since I had beer? Why don't they sell beer at the academy? She could only shudder hearing him. She yelled, obviously the rules don't allow students to drink alcohol. He just coldly replied, what's the big deal? In my time, anyone over 13 drank beer instead of water. She retorted, stop making things up. The old man brought up the food and asked, are you 2 mercenaries? Frey looked at the food and beer on the table, drool already flowing without him noticing. The old man continued, looking at how you 2 prepared to enter Hispania Mountains, it's obvious you're amateurs. Shiny armor sword at your hip gives the feeling of knights, right? He didn't bother to care and picked up the beer mug, drinking it in one big gulp. The old man sighed, well, it's not necessarily bad. Youth has the right to dream. He kindly advised them, after eating, go back home. Hispania Mountains is not a place for the likes of you. Isabel replied, I heard that place is called Monster Paradise. We've already anticipated the dangers. He coldly answered, just dangerous, you say? Then his expression changed frighteningly, warning, you kids don't know jack shit. There was some fear in her eyes. People around also started paying attention and gossiping. Those brats are planning to go to Hispania Mountains, truly youth who haven't experienced life. But Frey ignored everything, fully enjoying the meal with all his spirit and body. Even exclaiming, so delicious! The old man softened his voice and continued, I'm sorry. I also once had a son about your age. The boy was very active, always rushing everywhere, saying he would become a mercenary. So when I saw you 2, I felt I should do something to stop you. She asked further, where is he now? The old man coldly answered, he's dead right after entering Hispania. Isabel turned pale. I'm sorry. The old man continued, it's okay. I didn't tell you about him to get sympathy. He took a mission escorting a mother and daughter to pick herbs. The daughter later returned alone and said my son had died. I don't want to be harsh, but you 2 should stop dreaming about Hispania. Even the most seasoned warriors don't leave that place unscathed. That place is a living hell. She seemed to waver after hearing this, while startled that her companion still didn't care about the old man's warning and was wholeheartedly enjoying the food. Wow, the good food is all gone. After eating, he even asked, can you tell us about the monsters that might appear there? Isabel at this point just started eating her food. Just 1 spoonful and she turned pale because it didn't suit her taste. What the hell is this? The old man, hearing his question, exclaimed, good heavens, you'll go there regardless of your life. He held his head in pain. Damn it, I definitely won't sleep well tonight. The food on the table had been cleaned up. He pointed at the map in his hand, beginning to tell them about that living hell. She secretly thought after hearing, even though she'd mentally prepared, she didn't expect it to be this bad. Frey's reaction was the opposite. "Thank you, sir. How much for everything?" He stood up to pay, full of fighting spirit. The old man answered, "No need, I'll put it on the tab. Remember to pay when you return." He asked back, "Doing business like this, aren't you afraid of going bankrupt?" The old man just replied, "That's my concern." It was getting dark after eating. They both stood up to leave. The old man came to the door to see them off. They said their thanks. "Thank you for the meal, the sausage was truly a specialty." But the polite thanks was quickly exposed as a lie. "This place is famous for terrible food, only the beer is good." The old man reluctantly saw them off, saying, "I'll remember you two. If you two come back, I'll prepare a plate of much better sausage." He immediately replied, "You said it, old man." The old man smiled kindly. After that, both continued their search journey. The battle was extremely intense. The monsters with bizarre shapes, each body part was slashed away by Frey piece by piece. An incredibly cool scene. Isabel beside him wasn't idle either. She began using magic to condense lightning into a ball and threw it toward the monsters, very quickly after they were blown to bits. It seemed this move also consumed a certain amount of her power. Frey at this moment also looked somewhat serious. Although their attacks were powerful, the monsters kept coming endlessly. Frey said, "These monsters are too weak, but their numbers are troublesome." Isabel panted, How much further?" Frey checked the map. "We're almost at the dungeon entrance, just a bit more." She wiped sweat from her forehead. "I never thought it would be this exhausting." Frey glanced at her. "This is what real training looks like. Still want to continue?" Isabel's eyes burned with determination. "Of course I won't give up here." Frey nodded approvingly. "Good spirit, let's move." They continued deeper into the mountain path. The terrain became increasingly treacherous with steep cliffs and narrow passages. Suddenly a massive roar echoed through the mountains. Isabel's face turned pale. "What was that?" Frey remained calm. "Probably a high-level monster. Stay alert." From the shadows emerged a creature twice the size of any they had faced before. Its eyes glowed red with killing intent. Frey stepped forward. "This one's mine. Stay back and observe. This is the struggle method I mentioned." Isabel nodded and stepped back. Frey's aura suddenly changed. His eyes became cold and calculating. "It's been a while since I fought something worth fighting." The monster charged at him with incredible speed, but Frey was faster. With a single motion, he dodged and counterattacked simultaneously. Isabel watched in awe. "So fast. I couldn't even see his movements." The monster stumbled, a deep gash on its side. Frey spoke while fighting. "The struggle method isn't just about power, it's about pushing yourself beyond your limits in every moment." He continued his assault. "When facing death, your potential awakens. That's when true growth happens." The monster roared in pain. With one final strike, Frey ended the battle. The massive creature fell with a thunderous crash. He wasn't even breathing hard. Isabel ran over. "That was incredible. How did you move so fast?" Frey wiped his blade. 4,000 years of experience helps." She looked confused. "There you go again with the 4,000 years thing." Frey just smiled mysteriously. "You'll understand someday. Maybe." They continued their journey. After hours of walking, they finally arrived at an ancient stone structure hidden within the mountain. Frey's eyes widened with recognition. "This is it! Schweizer's dungeon. It's still here after all these years." Isabel gasped. "Schweizer, the great sage Schweizer." Frey nodded. "An old friend's research facility. If his notes still exist, they could be invaluable." He approached the entrance carefully. Ancient runes covered the stone doorway. Isabel studied them. "These symbols, they're from the Age of Light. I've only seen them in textbooks." Frey placed his hand on the door. A surge of mana flowed through him and the runes began to glow. "Let's see if my old access still works." The massive stone doors slowly creaked open, revealing a dark passage within. Dust particles floated in the air undisturbed for millennia. Isabel whispered, "No one has been here for thousands of years." Frey stepped inside. "That's because no one else could open it. Only those Schweizer trusted have access." She followed him cautiously. "And you have access how?" Frey didn't answer, just kept walking deeper into the dungeon. The passage opened into a vast chamber. Ancient magical artifacts lined the walls. Books and scrolls covered every surface. Frey looked around with nostalgia. "Exactly as I remember. That old bastard never could keep his workspace organized." Isabel's eyes sparkled. This is a treasure trove of knowledge." She reached for a nearby book. Frey quickly grabbed her wrist. "Don't touch anything carelessly. Schweizer always set traps for thieves. Some of these items could kill you instantly." She quickly withdrew her hand. Sorry. Frey released her wrist. It's fine, just be careful. I'll deactivate the security measures first. He began channeling mana through the room. One by one, invisible barriers shimmered and dissolved. Isabel watched in amazement. You really know this place well. Frey finished and turned to her. Now you can explore freely, but don't take anything without asking me first. She nodded eagerly and began examining the artifacts. Frey walked to a specific section of the room. There, covered in dust, was a journal with Schweizer's handwriting. He opened it carefully. His expression grew serious as he read, so he continued his research even after I was sealed, always the diligent one. Isabel called from across the room. Frey, look at this! She held up a crystal that pulsed with inner light. What is this? Frey walked over and examined it. A mana amplification crystal, very rare. Schweizer must have been working on enhancing magical output. She looked at it with wonder. Can we use it for training? Frey considered for a moment. Perhaps, but it's dangerous for someone at your level. He took the crystal from her. I'll hold on to this for now. When you're stronger, we can try using it. She nodded, slightly disappointed but understanding. They spent hours exploring the dungeon, discovering countless treasures. Frey collected several important items, including Schweizer's research notes. Finally, Frey said, That's enough for today. We should set up camp here. This place is safe from monsters. Isabel agreed, exhausted from the day's adventures. As they prepared to rest, Isabel asked, Frey, who are you really? You know so much about things from 4,000 years ago. Frey looked at her for a long moment. Would you believe me if I told you I was there? She stared at him. You mean, you're from the Age of Light? He smiled cryptically. Get some rest. We have a lot of training to do tomorrow. She wanted to ask more, but decided to let it go for now. That night, while Isabel slept, Frey sat alone studying Schweizer's notes. His expression was complicated. So much has changed, but the demigods are still out there. I need to get stronger faster. He clenched his fist. Schweizer, your research will help me. I swear I'll make those demigods pay for what they did to me, and for what they've done to this world. The night passed quietly in the ancient dungeon. The next morning, training began in earnest. Frey pushed Isabel to her absolute limits. She collapsed multiple times from exhaustion. But each time she got back up, Frey watched approvingly. Good, that determination is what separates the strong from the weak. Days turned into weeks. Isabel's power grew exponentially under Frey's guidance. She began to understand the struggle method. One day, she successfully executed a technique Frey taught her. She was overjoyed. I did it. I finally did it. Frey nodded. You've improved a lot. But don't get cocky, this is just the beginning. She smiled. I know, but still thank you for teaching me. Frey looked away. Don't thank me yet. The real challenges are still ahead. As they continued their training, neither knew that danger was approaching the mountain. A group of bandits had been tracking them. Their leader was a notorious criminal who controlled the mountain's underground. One of his subordinates reported, Boss, we've located them. 2 people, 1 male and 1 female. They seem to be training in the old ruins. The bandit leader grinned maliciously. Perfect. Fresh prey. Gather the men. We attack at dawn. His eyes gleamed with greed. That location might have treasures too. Meanwhile, back at the dungeon, Frey sensed something. His eyes narrowed. We have visitors coming. Unwelcome ones. Isabel tensed. Enemies! Frey nodded. Bandits, probably. This mountain is known for criminal activity. He stood up calmly. Perfect timing, actually. This will be good combat practice for you. She gulped but nodded determinedly. I won't let you down. Frey smiled slightly. We'll see. The bandits arrived at dawn as planned. There were at least 20 of them, all armed and dangerous. Their leader stepped forward. Surrender now and we might let you live. Give us everything you have. Frey stepped out to face them alone. 20 against 2, that's hardly fair, he smirked. For you, I mean. The bandit leader's face twisted with anger. Arrogant brat, kill him. The bandits charged forward with weapons raised. Frey didn't move. He simply raised his hand and whispered, Magic bullet. Multiple spheres of condensed mana shot out in all directions. In seconds, half the bandits were on the ground. The remaining ones froze in terror. The leader's eyes widened. What the fuck, he's a mage? Frey walked toward them calmly. Now then, shall we continue, or would you prefer to run? Some bandits immediately fled, others were too scared to move. The leader drew his sword with shaking hands. Don't come any closer, I'm warning you! Frey ignored his threat and kept approaching. In one swift motion, Frey disarmed the leader and had him on his knees. "Who sent you? Are there more of your kind in these mountains?" The leader whimpered. I'll tell you everything. Please don't kill me." Frey's eyes were cold. "Talk, and don't even think about lying." The leader spilled everything. There was a larger bandit organization operating in the mountains. They had been preying on travelers for months. Frey listened carefully. When the leader finished, Frey said, "Isabel, come here." She approached cautiously. "Yes," Frey gestured at the defeated bandits. "These are your training dummies for today. Practice your combat skills on them." The bandits' faces went pale with terror. Isabel hesitated. "You want me to?" Frey nodded. "Don't kill them. Just practice. They deserve some punishment anyway." She steeled herself and began. And hours later, the bandits were thoroughly beaten but alive. Frey had them tied up. "When we leave, someone will find you eventually. Reflect on your sins until then," the bandit leader cried pathetically. We're sorry, we'll never do this again." Frey didn't even look back as he walked away. Isabel followed him. "That was intense." Frey shrugged. "That's how the real world works. Not everything can be solved with words." She nodded slowly, understanding more about the harsh realities Frey had been trying to teach her. "I understand now. The struggle method isn't just about magic. It's about survival." Frey nodded approvingly. "Now you're starting to get it." They continued deeper into the mountains to find the main bandit base. According to the captured leader, there was a hideout where the bandits kept their prisoners. Frey wanted to deal with them once and for all. As they traveled, they encountered more monsters, each serving as training for Isabel. Her skills improved with every battle. Finally, they found the bandit hideout. It was a fortified cave system with guards posted at every entrance. Frey assessed the situation. About 50 men inside. "And there are prisoners!" Isabel clenched her fists. "We have to save them." Frey nodded. "We will, but we need a plan." He explained the strategy to Isabel. She would create a diversion while he infiltrated from another entrance. Once he freed the prisoners, they would escape together. She nodded nervously but determinedly. "I can do this." Frey looked at her seriously. "If things get dangerous, run. Don't be a hero. Understood?" She wanted to argue, but saw the seriousness in his eyes. "Understood." They moved into position and the operation began. Isabel's diversion worked perfectly. She drew most of the guards away with carefully aimed magic attacks. Frey used the chaos to slip inside. He moved silently through the cave, taking out guards one by one. His efficiency was terrifying. None of them even had time to scream. He found the prisoners in a deep chamber. There were about a dozen of them, all in terrible condition. They looked at him with desperate hope. Frey quickly freed them. "Can you walk?" An old man among them nodded weakly. "We'll manage. Thank you, young man." Frey led them toward the exit, but they were intercepted by the remaining bandits. The bandit boss appeared, a massive man with a scarred face. "You think you can waltz into my territory?" He wielded a giant axe. Behind him stood what appeared to be a mage with scars over his eyes. Frey narrowed his eyes. "Get the prisoners out. I'll handle this." The old prisoner nodded and led the others toward the exit. The bandit boss laughed. "You're brave, kid. Stupid but brave." Frey said nothing. He simply prepared for battle. The scarred mage spoke. "Careful, boss. He's not ordinary." The boss scoffed. "Just one brat, don't make me laugh." He charged at Frey with his axe. Frey dodged effortlessly and counterattacked. The boss was thrown back, crashing into the cave wall. The mage's eyes widened. "Impossible, that speed!" He began casting a spell, but Frey was faster. A magic bullet hit the mage before he could finish. The boss staggered to his feet, blood dripping from his mouth. "What the hell are you?" Frey walked toward him. "Just someone who hates scum like you." With one final strike, Frey ended the battle. The bandit boss collapsed defeated. The remaining bandits fled in terror. Isabel rushed in. "Frey, are you okay?" He nodded. "It's over. Let's check on the prisoners." They found the freed prisoners waiting outside safe. The old man approached Frey with tears in his eyes. "Thank you. We thought we would die in there." Frey simply nodded. "Just get home safely." As the prisoners left, Isabel looked at Frey with newfound respect. "You saved all those people." Frey turned away. "I just did what needed to be done." She smiled. "You're a good person, Frey, even if you try to hide it." He didn't respond, but his expression softened slightly. They returned to the dungeon to continue their training, but their actions had attracted attention. Word spread about the mysterious duo who destroyed the bandit operation. Elsewhere in the capital, Paran Jun received a report. "Interesting. Frey Blake continues to surprise me. He smiled thoughtfully. I should meet him when he returns. Back at Westroad Academy, Professor Jane also heard the rumors. She murmured to herself, that boy, what exactly is he? The break was halfway over. Frey and Isabel's training intensified. She had grown tremendously, but there was still much to learn. One evening, as they rested after training, Isabel asked, Frey, will you tell me about Lukas Trowman? The real story's not just what's in books? Frey was silent for a moment, then he spoke. Lukas Trowman was just a man trying to protect what he cared about. Nothing more, nothing less. She sensed there was more to the story. You speak as if you knew him personally. Frey looked at the stars. Maybe I did, in another life. The mystery around Frey only deepened, but Isabel decided she would uncover the truth eventually. For now, she focused on becoming stronger. Their training continued until it was time to return to the academy. Both had changed significantly during their time in the mountains. As they prepared to leave, Frey looked back at Schweizer's dungeon one last time. I'll return when I'm ready. There's still more to learn here. Isabel stood beside him. Thank you for everything, Frey. This trip changed me. He glanced at her. Good, but the real challenges are just beginning. They began their journey back to the academy. Little did they know, events were unfolding that would test everything they had learned. On their way down the mountain, they encountered a scene of carnage. Bodies of travelers lay scattered on the path. Isabel covered her mouth in horror. What happened here? Frey examined the scene with cold eyes. Bandits, different from the ones we dealt with. He noticed tracks leading deeper into the forest. They went that way, and they took prisoners. Isabel understood immediately. We're going after them, right? Frey nodded. Of course! They followed the tracks swiftly. The trail led to another bandit camp, this one even more fortified. From their hiding spot, they observed the camp. Several prisoners were tied to trees being used for target practice by the bandits. Frey's expression turned dark. These bastards, using people as entertainment. His voice was cold with barely contained rage. Isabel also felt anger rising within her. We can't let this continue. Frey stood up. Stay here, this won't take long. Before she could protest, he was already moving. His figure blurred as he entered the camp. The bandits didn't even see him coming. The first bandit's head was separated from his body before he could scream. The others turned in confusion, only to find death waiting for them. Frey moved through them like a ghost, his attacks precise and lethal. Magic and blade combined in a dance of destruction. The bandits tried to fight back, but it was futile. One by one, they fell. Their screams echoed through the forest. In less than a minute, it was over. Frey stood among the corpses, not a single drop of blood on him. His eyes showed no emotion. Isabel rushed into the camp. She stopped short, seeing the carnage. Frey! He turned to her. Free the prisoners. I'll make sure none escaped. She nodded silently and went to help the survivors. As she untied them, she couldn't help glancing at Frey. The power he displayed was terrifying. One of the prisoners, the man with a beard, looked at Frey with fear and gratitude. You saved us. But those moves, that's not normal magic. Frey ignored the comment. Can you walk? We need to move. There might be more of them. The man nodded quickly. Yes, we can manage. They guided the prisoners to a safe location before continuing their journey. Isabel remained quiet, still processing what she had witnessed. Finally, she spoke. That magic you used, the Blade of Light, that's a 5-star spell, isn't it? Frey didn't answer immediately. Eventually, he said, You're more observant than I gave you credit for. She pressed further. 5-star magic requires years of training. How can you... Frey stopped walking and faced her. Some questions are better left unanswered, for now. His tone left no room for argument. She fell silent, but her determination to uncover Frey's secrets only grew stronger. They continued toward the teleportation stone. Behind them, one bandit had survived by playing dead. He watched them leave with terrified eyes. A monster. I have to report this to the gang leader. He crawled away, vowing vengeance for his fallen comrades. But that was a story for another time. Back at the hideout, the surviving bandit stumbled to report. The remaining leaders gathered to hear his account. Group 3 has been eliminated by a ghost, he gasped out. The gang leader sneered. Bullshit, there's no such thing as ghosts in this world. The subordinate insisted desperately. It's true, boss, I saw it with my own eyes. His hair flowing in the wind, his pale, thin body reeked of death. He definitely wasn't human. His fighting ability completely overwhelmed us. He could summon a scythe from hell and cut off our brothers' heads one by one. Only I was lucky enough to survive. The gang leader turned to a scarred man standing behind him. The scarred mage replied, Agreed, based on this account it seems he can cast multiple spells simultaneously. The gang leader frowned. A magic warrior then. The scarred mage said, Agreed. The leader stood up and ordered his men. Increase patrols. If you spot him, report immediately. Then we'll plan to eliminate him. The scarred man asked, Boss, do you think this mage was hired by the noble family? The leader ground his teeth. That knight family would bow to a mage impossible. He turned to scold the survivor. You lot were playing dart games with people again, weren't you? The man cowered in fear. I'm sorry, we were just bored. The leader asked. Who were you using as targets? Meanwhile, Frey and Isabel had reached the teleportation stone. Their mountain adventure was coming to an end. As they prepared to teleport, Frey said, When we return, things will be different. The academy will seem boring after this. Isabel smiled. Maybe, but I'm looking forward to showing everyone how much I've improved. Frey nodded. Just don't reveal everything. Keep some surprises hidden. She understood. I know, like you taught me. Never show all your cards. The teleportation activated. The light enveloped them and they were transported back toward civilization. Their training in Hispania Mountains had ended. But the experiences there had changed them both forever. Isabel had grown from a talented student into a formidable mage in training. And Frey? Frey remained an enigma, a mystery wrapped in the guise of a student, his true identity still hidden from all. As they materialized at their destination, Isabel took a deep breath. We're back. Frey looked around at the familiar surroundings. Indeed, now the next phase begins. She looked at him curiously. Next phase? Frey's eyes held a dangerous glint. Gathering allies, building power, preparing for war. Isabel felt a chill. War against whom? Frey stared into the distance. Against those who think themselves gods. His voice was cold as ice. The demigods will pay for what they've done. Isabel didn't fully understand, but she sensed the weight behind his words. Whatever enemies Frey faced, they were beyond ordinary. They began walking toward the academy. Along the way, people stared at them. Word of their exploits had already spread. Whispers followed them. Is that Frey Blake, the one who destroyed the mountain bandits? I heard he's actually a hidden genius. Frey ignored the attention. Isabel walked proudly beside him. She had earned her place through blood, sweat, and determination. As they approached the academy gates, a familiar figure waited for them. Paran June stood there with an enigmatic smile. Welcome back, Frey Blake, Isabel Trisnine. He stepped forward. I've been wanting to meet you properly. Shall we talk? Frey studied Paran carefully. This was the leader of Trowman Rings, the club named after his former self. What do you want? Paran's smile widened. Just a conversation between interesting individuals. I have a feeling we have much to discuss. Isabel looked between them, sensing the tension. Two powerful presences facing each other. She stayed alert, ready for anything. Frey finally nodded. Fine, lead the way. Paran turned and walked toward the academy. Follow me. This conversation requires privacy. They entered the academy, drawing stares from students everywhere. The trio made their way to Paran's private office. Once inside, Paran gestured for them to sit. Please make yourselves comfortable. Frey remained standing. Isabel sat down cautiously. Paran poured tea for everyone. I've heard interesting things about you, Frey. Your rapid improvement, your mysterious knowledge. Frey's expression didn't change. Get to the point. Paran chuckled. Direct, I like that. He set down the teapot. I want you to join Trowman Rings. The offer hung in the air. Isabel's eyes widened. Frey's expression remained neutral. Why would I do that? Frey asked. Paran leaned forward. Because we share common interests, power, knowledge, and perhaps enemies. Frey's eyes narrowed slightly. What do you know about enemies? Paran's smile turned mysterious. More than you might think. There are forces in this world that threaten everything we hold dear. Forces that even the great academies fear to name. Frey studied Paran with new interest. Could this young man know about the demigods, or was he referring to something else? Paran continued. Join us and you'll have access to resources, information, and allies. Together we can accomplish great things. Frey considered the offer carefully. Having allies could accelerate his plans. But could he trust this man? Finally he spoke. I'll think about it. Paran nodded satisfied. That's all I ask. Take your time. He stood up. The offer remains open when you decide you know where to find me. Frey turned to leave. Isabel quickly followed. As they walked out, Isabel whispered, What do you think about joining? Frey didn't answer immediately. His mind was processing everything. Paran June is more than he appears, he finally said. But whether he's an ally or a threat, I haven't decided yet. They continued walking through the academy halls. A new chapter of their story was about to begin, one filled with intrigue, power, and secrets. That guy was just a lowly mercenary, you know him too. the one who led that mother and daughter to pick herbs. The gang leader then thought, he probably can't afford to hire a magic warrior, so who the hell is that guy? In another forest, a scene of devastation appeared. Carriages shattered. Warriors lying everywhere mixed with exhausted gasps. The gang leader was talking to a girl. Come on, don't look at me like that, it kills the mood. Do you know how long I've been looking for you? The eldest daughter of the noble knight family Aquarid. His subordinates charged at Sonia to attack. She fought back fiercely alone. After dealing with those lackeys, she gripped her sword tightly, charged straight at the gang leader, and screamed, "Die!" When Sonia charged forward, the scarred man appeared in time, using his blade to block her sword. He used tremendous force to throw Sonia backward. The gang leader pretended to be scared. Phew, close call. I think I'm starting to like you. Fighting like that and still not dropping your sword. Seems the rumors about the blue flame sword of the Luana Nobel Kingdom are true. Sonia's maids cried out, "My lady, Lady Sonia." A blonde knight also worriedly called her name. Lady Sonia. Sonia looked at everyone with eyes full of regret. Her servants sobbed continuously, calling out, "Princess Sonia!" The gang leader began mocking. Finally worth waiting desperately for a month in that mountain, even more beautiful than I imagined. Sonia Aquarid, they say the eldest daughter of the Aquarid knight family, has a talent no man can match. A genius knight who was granted the title Storm by the king when she turned 18. Or something like that. Sonia looked at the two maids and the knight secretly thinking, he's killed my entire escort. Only two maids and Sir Lear remain. Sir Lear retired long ago now, only I can still fight. On the other hand, their numbers exceed 20, and each one is very strong. This move right or wrong, there's no going back, damn it. The gang leader asked her, "But I have a question. Where's your mage bodyguard?" Sonia angrily shouted, "Nonsense! You think a prestigious knight family like us needs those lowly mages for protection? Mages nowadays are all trash." The gang leader recalled Sonia's words, a thought flashing in his mind. Just as I thought. That guy who clashed with my boys has nothing to do with them. A ghost. I'm curious to know what kind of person he is. He said to Sonia, "Don't be so tense. We won't kill you right away, darling." Sonia screamed, "What do you mean by that?" The gang leader smiled dangerously. "I think you already know. No need to spell it out." Sonia now truly felt afraid. His subordinates approached Sonia, their tone full of lust. "It's rare for a noble lady this fine to visit us. How could we possibly pass this up?" Sonia angrily said, "Vulgar! I'd rather bite my tongue and die right here than become your plaything." The gang leader wasn't fazed, instead saying something even more cruel. "That's fine, because without you, we still have those two girls behind you. We've been living rough for a whole month just waiting for you, so all the boys are very hungry. We'll probably save them for long-term fun, right?" Sonia bitterly thought, these sick bastards. So that was their purpose in keeping the maids alive. The two maids trembled in fear, hugging each other. They said to Sonia, We servants won't be a burden to you, my lady." Sir Lear also said, "To die for Princess Sonia is an honor for the servant." Sonia felt immense guilt. She looked at the sword in her hand, blaming herself for her poor leadership that made everyone suffer. The two servants cried and said, "Don't be sad, my lady. We were raised under the roof of the Aquarid family. By your side, please end our lives with your own hands. If we're defiled by them after death, we won't have the face to reunite with our ancestors." Sonia trembled, holding the sword, her voice resolute. "Very well. Hold your heads high and puff out your chests with pride, for heaven awaits us." The gang leader suddenly panicked and asked, Hey, wait, what did they just say?" Sonia suddenly declared loudly, "For the honor of these two maids, for the honor of the Aquarid family, I, Sonia Aquarid, will send you both to a new horizon." The gang leader hurriedly ordered his men, "Hey, stop her quickly, stop her." Just as Sonia was about to swing her sword at the two servants, the sword in her hand suddenly vanished. Sonia was stunned. Where did my sword go? Who would have thought these worthless bandits were this capable? Damn it. In the end, I still taste the greatest humiliation for a knight. Sonia said to her servants, "Forgive me for not being able to give you an honorable death." The two servants sobbed, "My lady." Sonia commanded, "I, Sonia Aquarid, eldest daughter of the Aquarid family, command you to bite your tongues and..." Suddenly a voice rang out. "Princess Sonia!" The gang leader also saw Frey appear and said, "Finally you've shown your face." Indeed, Frey appeared right beside Sonia, holding her sword in his hand, making her extremely shocked. Frey and Isabel appeared unexpectedly. Isabel was supporting the wounded man that Frey had saved earlier. The gang leader, seeing Frey appear, said, "I heard about you from my boys. Seems like you took good care of my brothers, huh?" Frey tossed the sword to Sonia and said, "You're the ringleader, right?" The gang leader frowned at Frey and pointed toward the mountain. You came from that direction, that's where our main camp is. What did you do to my men? Frey smirked. Dead. What's the point of asking when you already know the answer? He ground his teeth and ordered his subordinates. Boys, skewer this motherfucker for me. Don't give him time to cast spells. He secretly thought, based on the reports, he's just a magic warrior. Everyone knows how weak mages' bodies are, besides with our overwhelming numbers. He, the gang leader, had severely underestimated Frey. Frey didn't even flinch. He calmly raised his hand and summoned his signature magic bullet. The bandits charged forward recklessly. In a flash, the first wave of attackers were blown away. Their bodies flew through the air like ragdolls. The remaining bandits froze in terror. The gang leader's eyes widened. What the fuck? He took out 10 men with one spell? The scarred mage beside him trembled. That power, that's not normal magic. Frey walked forward calmly. Is that all you've got? I expected more from a gang that terrorizes these mountains. His voice was cold and mocking. The gang leader screamed at his men. Don't just stand there, attack all of you at once! The remaining bandits hesitated but charged forward. Frey sighed. Pathetic. He raised both hands this time. Magic bullet triple cast. 3 spheres of condensed mana shot out simultaneously. The bandits were decimated. Bodies flew in all directions. Screams echoed through the forest. In less than a minute, most of them were down. Only the gang leader and the scarred mage remained standing. The gang leader's legs were shaking. Impossible! What the hell are you? Frey walked toward them. Just someone who despises scum like you. The scarred mage stepped forward. I'll handle this, boss. He's just a mage, I can counter him. He began casting a spell. Dark energy gathered in his hands. Taste my dark-bind black tendrils shot toward Frey. Frey didn't even bother dodging, he simply walked through the dark magic as if it were nothing. The scarred mage's eyes bulged. Impossible, my spell had no effect. Frey appeared before him in an instant. A 3-star mage trying to challenge me? How amusing. With a single magic bullet, he sent the scarred mage flying. The gang leader fell to his knees. Please spare me, I'll do anything. Frey looked down at him with contempt. Anything you say. The leader nodded frantically. Yes, I have money treasures, I'll give you everything. Frey's expression remained cold. Tell me, how many innocent people have you killed? The leader's face went pale. Frey's voice turned ice cold. How many women have you violated? How many families have you destroyed? The leader couldn't answer, he just trembled in fear. Frey raised his hand, a magic bullet forming. People like you don't deserve mercy. Wait. Sonia's voice stopped him. She walked over sword in hand. Let me do it. As a knight, it's my duty to execute criminals who've harmed my people. Frey looked at her for a moment, then nodded. As you wish, princess. Sonia raised her sword. The gang leader screamed. No, please, I beg you. With one swift strike, Sonia ended his life. She stood there breathing heavily. It's over. Frey dismissed his magic bullet. Indeed. The 2 maids rushed over to Sonia. My lady, are you all right? Sonia embraced them. I'm fine. We're safe now. Tears streamed down their faces. Sir Lear also approached. My lady, that young man, he saved us all. Sonia looked at Frey with a complex expression. Yes, he did. She walked toward Frey and bowed deeply. I, Sonia Aquarid, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You saved not only my life, but my honor as well. Frey seemed uncomfortable with her formality. There's no need for that, I just did what anyone should do. Sonia shook her head. No, what you did was extraordinary. She looked at the carnage around them. Single-handedly defeating an entire bandit gang? And that magic. You're no ordinary mage, are you? Frey didn't answer directly. We should get moving. There might be more of them in the area. Sonia nodded. You're right, but first may I know your name? Frey Blake. Sonia's eyes widened slightly. Blake, as in the Blake family. Frey nodded. The very same, though I'm not exactly their favorite son. Sonia studied him with newfound interest. I've heard rumors about you. The Academy's disgrace who suddenly became powerful. Frey shrugged. Rumors tend to exaggerate. Isabel approached them. Frey the wounded man needs medical attention. We should find a healer. Frey nodded. Princess, do you know where the nearest town is? Sonia pointed westward. There's a village half a day's journey from here. My family has connections there. She looked at her remaining companions. Can everyone travel? Sir Lear nodded. We can manage, my lady. The 2 maids also confirmed they could walk. Frey said, "Then let's move. We'll escort you to safety." Sonia looked surprised. "You would do that?" Frey started walking. "We're going the same direction anyway." Isabel smiled at Sonia. "Don't mind him, he's always like this." They began their journey toward the village. Along the way, Sonia couldn't help stealing glances at Frey. His power, his demeanor, everything about him was mysterious. She fell into step beside him. "May I ask you something?" Frey didn't look at her. "You just did." She smiled slightly at his bluntness. "That magic you used. I've never seen anything like it, such power from what appeared to be simple spells." Frey remained silent for a moment. "Power isn't just about the spell itself, it's about how you wield it." Sonia nodded thoughtfully. "A philosophical answer." "Tell me," she continued, "why did you help us? You could have simply walked away." Frey's jaw tightened slightly. "I don't like seeing the strong abuse the weak." "There's more to it than that, isn't there?" Sonia pressed. Frey finally looked at her. "Perhaps, but some stories are too long to tell while walking." She accepted his evasion gracefully. "Then perhaps you'll tell me someday. I'd like to properly repay my debt to you." Frey shook his head. "There's no debt, forget it." "A knight never forgets their debts," Sonia said firmly. "When you need help, the Aquarid family will answer, that's a promise." Frey said nothing but didn't refuse. Hours later, they arrived at the village. True to Sonia's word, her family's name carried weight here. They were given lodging and medical care immediately. The wounded man was treated by the village healer. Frey and Isabel were given a room to rest. Sonia arranged everything personally. That evening, Sonia found Frey sitting alone outside, staring at the stars. She approached quietly. "May I join you?" He nodded slightly. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, then Sonia spoke. "I heard you're from Westroad Academy," Frey confirmed. "I am. My fiancé attends there as well, Perron June." Frey raised an eyebrow. "Perron is your fiancé?" Sonia nodded. "An arranged engagement. Our families have been allied for generations." Frey recalled his recent encounter with Perron. "I've met him. He seems capable." Sonia laughed softly. "That's one way to describe him. He invited me to join his club, Trowman Rings." Sonia's interest piqued. "Did you accept?" Frey shook his head. "Not yet, I'm still deciding." Sonia smiled. "Perron rarely invites anyone directly. He must see something special in you." Frey didn't respond to the compliment. "When you return to the academy, please give him my regards." Sonia stood up. "And tell him I'll visit soon." Frey nodded. "I will." The next morning they parted ways. Sonia and her group would continue to her family's territory. Frey and Isabel would return to the academy. At the village gate, Sonia extended her hand. "Until we meet again, Frey Blake." He shook it firmly. "Stay safe, princess." As they walked away, Isabel glanced at Frey. "She seems to like you." Frey frowned. "Don't be ridiculous. She's engaged to Perron." Isabel giggled. "I didn't say romantically, but she definitely respects you." Frey sighed. "Let's just focus on getting back." Their journey continued. They used the teleportation stones to travel faster. Within a day, they arrived back at Westroad Academy. The academy looked the same as when they left, but somehow it felt different. Perhaps it was they who had changed. Students stared as they entered. Whispers followed them. "Is that Frey Blake? He looks different somehow. I heard he went to Hispania Mountains and survived." Frey ignored the attention. Isabel walked beside him proudly. They had earned every whisper, every stare. Professor Jean was waiting at the main building. She rushed over when she saw them. "Frey, Isabel, you're back." Her face showed genuine relief. Frey nodded. "We are." Professor Jane looked them over. "You both look stronger. What happened out there?" Isabel smiled. "A lot, Professor. A lot." Professor Jane focused on Frey. "I've heard reports, bandits eliminated, villages saved. Rumors are spreading about a mysterious mage in the mountains." Frey shrugged. "Just dealt with some trash, nothing special." Professor Jane studied him carefully. "You've reached a new level, haven't you? I can sense it." Before Frey could respond, a familiar voice called out, "Frey, you're back." Perron June approached with his characteristic smile. "I heard about your adventures. Quite impressive." Frey met his gaze evenly. "I met your fiancée." Perron's eyes flickered with surprise. "Sonia, is she all right?" "She's fine. She sends her regards and says she'll visit soon." Perron nodded, his smile returning. "Thank you for helping her. I'm in your debt." Frey shook his head. "No debt. I did what needed to be done." Perron's smile deepened. "That's exactly why I want you in Trowman Rings. You act without expecting reward. You protect the innocent. Those are qualities we value." Frey considered his words. I've thought about your offer. Paran waited patiently, the air around them tensed with anticipation. Even Professor Jane and Isabel watched closely. I'll join, Frey finally said, but on one condition. Paran raised an eyebrow. Name it. Frey's expression was serious. I need access to information about certain entities that most people don't know exist. Paran's eyes narrowed slightly. Entities! Frey leaned closer. Beings that call themselves gods. Beings that rule from the shadows. Do you know what I'm talking about? Paran's expression became unreadable. Perhaps. Let's discuss this privately. He gestured toward the academy building. Follow me. Frey followed Paran. Isabel tried to come along, but Frey shook his head. Wait here. I'll tell you later. She nodded reluctantly. In Paran's private office, the atmosphere was tense. Paran poured tea but didn't drink. So, you know about them? Frey nodded. The demigods, yes. Paran's composure cracked slightly. How that knowledge isn't supposed to exist anymore. They erased all records centuries ago. Frey smiled grimly. Let's just say I have personal experience with them. Paran studied him intensely. Who are you really? Frey met his gaze without flinching. Someone who wants revenge. Someone who will destroy them no matter what it takes. Paran was silent for a long moment, then he smiled, but it was different from his usual pleasant expression. This smile was sharp, dangerous. It seems we have more in common than I thought, Frey Blake. He extended his hand. Welcome to Trowman Rings. Together we'll shake the foundations of this world. Frey shook his hand. An alliance was formed. Two powers united by a common enemy. The demigods didn't know it yet, but the tide was beginning to turn. After their meeting, Frey found Isabel waiting anxiously. What happened? What did you discuss? He looked at her seriously. Things are going to change. I'm going to tell you something, but you must keep it secret. She nodded solemnly. I swear on my family name. Frey took a deep breath. What I'm about to tell you will sound insane, but it's the truth. Isabel listened intently. 4,000 years ago, there were beings called demigods. They controlled this world from the shadows. They still do. Her eyes widened. Demigods like in the ancient legends. Frey nodded. Not legends. Real beings with power beyond imagination. They imprisoned me for 4,000 years. Isabel's face went pale. Imprisoned you for 4,000 years. The implication hit her. You're really... Lukas Trowman, Frey finished for her. The Great Mage from the Age of Light. That's who I am. That's who I've always been. Isabel staggered backward. But how? That's impossible. Frey's expression was sad. 4,000 years of imprisonment breaks many things impossible. When I finally broke free, I found myself in this body. Frey Blake's body. His soul had departed and mine took its place. Isabel processed this information. Her idol, the mage she had admired her entire life, was standing before her, living in a student's body. That's why you know so much. That's why you're so powerful. Frey nodded. Now you understand. Isabel fell to her knees. I've been traveling with Lukas Trowman this whole time. I even said I wanted to marry you. Her face turned bright red with embarrassment. Frey actually chuckled. Don't worry about that. It was amusing. He helped her up. But now you know the truth. Will you still follow me? Isabel's embarrassment faded, replaced by determination. More than ever, if the demigods are real, if they're the enemy, I want to fight them too. Frey smiled genuinely. Good, because the war ahead will be unlike anything this world has seen. He looked toward the window. The demigods ruled unchallenged for 4,000 years. It's time to remind them that even gods can bleed. Isabel stood beside him. What's our next step? Frey's eyes gleamed with purpose. First we gather allies, the members of Trowman Rings, Sonia and the Aquarid family. Then we find the other legacies, Schweizer's research, Kasajan's teachings, Diablo's dark arts, everything my old friends left behind. Isabel looked concerned. Diablo's dark arts isn't that dangerous. Frey nodded grimly. Very, but against the demigods we need every weapon available. This won't be a clean war, it won't be honorable, it will be brutal and bloody. Are you prepared for that? Isabel steeled herself. I am, whatever it takes. Frey placed a hand on her shoulder. Then rest today. Tomorrow we begin our real training. Days passed. Frey officially joined Trowman Rings. The other members regarded him with curiosity, some with suspicion. But Paran's endorsement carried weight. Frey was accepted into their ranks. He began learning about the club's true purpose. It wasn't just an elite student organization. It was a resistance movement. A group dedicated to uncovering the truth about the world's hidden rulers. Paran had been gathering information for years. He knew about the demigods' existence, though not as much as Frey did. Together they began planning. Resources were pooled, information was shared, a true alliance was forming. Frey also continued training Isabel. Her power grew rapidly under his guidance. She was approaching 4-star level now. Other students noticed the changes. Frey Blake was no longer the Academy's disgrace. He was becoming a figure of respect and fear. David, now recovered from his injuries, avoided Frey completely. The bullies who once tormented him scattered at his approach. Professor Jane watched these developments with growing interest. She had suspected there was more to Frey. Now she was certain. One day she called him to her office. "Frey, we need to talk." He entered calmly. "About what, Professor?" She closed the door behind him. "About who you really are." Her eyes were sharp. "I've been teaching for 15 years. I know when a student is hiding something." Frey met her gaze evenly. "What do you think I'm hiding?" Professor Jane stepped closer. "Power, knowledge, perhaps even your true identity. No student, no matter how talented, can improve as fast as you have. No one can know things that haven't been taught for centuries." Frey smiled slightly. "You're perceptive, Professor." She waited for an explanation. He considered his options. "What if I told you that everything you know about the world is wrong? That there are beings controlling everything from the shadows?" Professor Jane's expression didn't change. "I would say I've suspected as much for a long time." Frey raised an eyebrow. "Really? I've studied ancient texts. I've noticed inconsistencies in history, things that don't add up." She sat down. "Tell me the truth, Frey." Frey decided to trust her. He told her everything he had told Isabel, his true identity, the demigods, his plan for revenge. When he finished, Professor Jane was silent for a long moment, then she laughed. "Lukas Trowman, the greatest mage in history, sitting in my office. And here I was flirting with him like a schoolgirl." She shook her head in disbelief. Frey smiled awkwardly. "About that." She waved her hand. "Don't worry, it's actually flattering in retrospect." Her expression became serious. "What can I do to help?" Frey considered. "Information. The Academy has archives that might contain useful knowledge, and protection. If the demigods learn about me, they'll try to seal you again." Professor Jane finished. "I understand. I'll do what I can." She stood and extended her hand. "You have an ally in me, Lukas Trowman, or should I keep calling you Frey?" He shook her hand. "Frey is fine. Lukas belongs to another era." And so another ally joined his cause. The circle of trust was growing. Piece by piece, Frey was building his army. Weeks passed. News arrived that Sonia would be visiting the academy. She was coming to meet Paran, her fiancé. When she arrived, she immediately sought out Frey. "Frey Blake, I've been wanting to thank you properly." He greeted her politely. "Princess Sonia." She frowned. "Just Sonia. After what we went through, formality seems silly." Frey nodded. "All right, Sonia." Paran joined them. He and Sonia greeted each other with the comfortable familiarity of long engagement. But Frey noticed something. Their relationship seemed more like close friends than lovers. An arranged engagement, just as Sonia had said. Business, not romance. Sonia turned to Frey. "I heard you joined Trowman Rings. I'm glad. You and Paran will make a good team." Paran smiled. "Indeed, Frey has been invaluable." The three of them spent time together discussing the future. Sonia, it turned out, also knew about the demigods. Her family had preserved ancient knowledge. "The Aquarid family has always known," she explained. "We've been preparing generation after generation for the day someone would stand against them." Frey was surprised. "Why didn't you act sooner?" Sonia's expression was sad. "We didn't have the power. The demigods are too strong for any single force. But now..." She looked at Frey with hope. "Now we have the one person who fought them before, the greatest mage in history." Frey shook his head. "I lost before. They sealed me for 4,000 years. Sonia smiled. "But you survived. You came back. That alone is remarkable." Paran agreed. "She's right. Your return changes everything. For the first time in millennia, we have a real chance." Frey felt the weight of their expectations. "I won't fail this time," he vowed. "I'll destroy them all." His eyes burned with determination. "Every last one." Sonia placed her hand on his arm. "You won't be alone. The Aquarid family stands with you." Paran nodded, as does Trowman Rings and the Jun family. Allies were gathering. Resources were pooling. The resistance was taking shape, but there was still much to do. Frey needed to find Schweizer's other research facilities. He needed to unlock more of his sealed power. He needed to prepare for war. One day, Frey and Isabel ventured to a remote island. They stood before a massive ancient tree. Isabel asked in amazement, "Why is this tree so abnormally huge?" Frey pointed out, Obviously, this is the entrance to the inside. They even built stairs. The path was illuminated by lamps hanging on both walls. Isabel hesitated. Hey, Frey? But then she stopped herself thinking, that can't be possible, better not to overthink and bother him. They followed the stairs deeper underground. They had entered the dungeon. The stairs seemed to stretch endlessly. On both sides were flickering lights. Strange-shaped lamps emitted a soft, pleasant yellow glow. After walking for a while, they stopped. Isabel's face showed extreme astonishment. They were standing before a gigantic gate radiating brilliant light, looking incredibly luxurious and magnificent. Frey reached out to touch the door, trying to find a way in. Meanwhile, she wondered, how do we open this door? He answered. Schweizer enchanted it. If we try to force it open, we'll be obliterated instantly. Hearing this, she couldn't help but feel afraid, but right after, he began searching for signs around and noticed a sphere placed nearby. He touched it and suddenly power emanated. A large cloud of smoke appeared, startling Isabel. Why is there suddenly smoke? The smoke quickly gathered, forming a guide. It looked quite energetic and mischievous. Hello, cuties. Then it said some strange things. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, sparrow calling eagle. Can everyone hear me? It was checking the audio. Seeing its weirdness, she pouted and asked, what a strange boy. Whose kid is this? But she quickly noticed Frey had a very strange expression. His face darkened and he seemed to be trembling slightly. She softly called his name. At the same time, the boy began speaking. Welcome to my dungeon. I don't know what you want from this place, but I'll still be honored to receive you. Suddenly, a trembling hand reached toward its face and passed through its head. Yes, this is just an illusion, not a real person. Isabel realized it was just a 3D image recorded and played by Mana. He was still trembling but muttered, always so talkative. Still not tired of pretending to be young, my old friend. But no matter what form you're in, it's good to see you again. Schweizer Vilseman. The girl standing beside heard this and was extremely shocked. This boy is Schweizer, the illusion boy asked. Tell me what motivation brought you here. She realized they could communicate with him. He emotionally called Schweizer, but the boy continued. You can tell me anything, but since this is just a recording, I'll only answer what's pre-recorded, followed by a satisfied laugh. They listened silently as it continued. Whatever you want is here because this is the dungeon of Schweizer Vilseman, that's me. He moved his lips to say something, but then stopped. After considering, he stammered out a few words. How did you die? The illusory boy didn't answer directly, but said, Of course you'll have to take a small test of mine. To enter, you must correctly answer my questions, but be careful. Just one small mistake and you'll be trapped here forever. He continued, trembling throughout its speech. His trembling wasn't from fear, but from emotion at meeting a kindred spirit, an old friend who thousands of years ago had drunk wine and watched the stars with him. But now that scene could only exist in memory, never to happen again. He looked at the illusion thinking, your voice and your attitude. Nothing seems to have changed, just like when we laughed and joked together. Not anymore. Truly, I'm the last one remaining in this world. He clenched his fists, suppressing his emotions to maintain control, not to shed tears. I'm not the last one. The ones I loved and cherished have all aged and died over time. Yet the one who caused our suffering still sits ruling the world. My enemy still exists. Thinking of this, hatred appeared in his eyes, an indelible hatred. She noticed him standing still for a long time and snuck a glance. The boy spoke up, breaking the silence. Sorry to interrupt the conversation here, but let's start the test. Questions began about the dungeon's master. What does Schweizer Vilseman hate the most? He answered demigods, the robot said excitedly. Correct one, correct answer. The door immediately opened. The illusory boy also disappeared with it. He walked in before Isabel's bewildered gaze. Then she closed her eyes tight and ran after him. She stammered, Frey, you are... The biggest question in her head was, who are you and how... He turned around, not understanding what she meant. She couldn't form words. How did you... He grumbled. Stop wasting time. We're in Schweizer's dungeon now. Given his personality, the place storing his treasures won't be normal either. Be careful of traps when you enter. He kindly reminded her. If you plan to kill yourself, just stand there forever. Do you want to become stronger? Clear your head and focus. Only then did she come to her senses and reply, yes. As they went deeper, he began planning. Let's see what awaits me. A beginning or an ending. They approached a room with a relatively bizarre system. They stood before another door like before. Frey continued the same procedures as before, placing his hand on the sphere beside the gate. And this time, just like before, after he touched it, thick smoke rose up, forming another 3D illusion. This time it wasn't a boy, but a young man. Isabel beside him exclaimed in surprise, "This time it's a young man." He continued, "It's still Schweizer. His appearance ages with each trial. Don't know why he has to be so flashy." The 3D Schweizer began speaking. "I'll move on to the second question." He asked the second question back. He explained, "Oh, sorry, I forgot to explain. The deeper you go, the more valuable the treasures become. However, you're only allowed to take one item out of here. If you don't comply with this small rule, the golem here will get angry. One mistake and you're dead. Be careful with every move." Suddenly, he remembered Iris Vinciator and shook his head with a look of exasperation. Such a troublesome woman. I never understood what goes on in those witches' heads. While we were breaking our backs protecting the world, she was chasing after men without caring that the apocalypse was near. He didn't understand repeating men. The girl standing beside heard and asked, "Is Iris Vinciator the Black Witch, Iris?" Frey was startled. Black Witch, Iris Vinciator, the woman with jet black hair, always wearing a mysterious smile on her lips. That's how she got the title of Black Witch. No man in this world could resist her seduction, including himself. He had never seen anyone with such a voluptuous figure. While thinking, he couldn't help but picture her in his mind. His face turned red, drool even coming out. Who knows what scene he was imagining? She looked at him with great concern. Suddenly, Schweizer continued, "Iris is certainly to blame, but Lukas is even more pathetic. What kind of great mage doesn't realize that Iris likes him, not so omnipotent after all?" Hearing this, he was startled. "Huh? Really?" Schweizer continued. "Iris gave him so many green lights, but that guy never paid attention." What an idiot. Isabel laughed to herself. Frey is exactly like Lukas in this regard. The illusion continued. "I bet even golems have higher IQ than him." Almost forgot. Second question, Iris made contracts with 3 demons and used their power to fight. Among the 3 demons, one has 6 arms, each hand holding a different weapon and is the embodiment of Asura. The illusion shouted, "Correct!" then disappeared. Isabel asked, "You answered," without even letting him finish the question. Sparkling jewelry was displayed before their eyes. This was a room full of gold and treasures. Items were exquisitely designed and beautiful. They quickly reached middle-aged Schweizer. The next question, she whispered, "He's gotten older again." And he realized, "I understand now." The reason Schweizer's appearance aged the deeper they went. Simply put, this entire dungeon was his diary. "Schweizer, what was your purpose in building this place? Did you want to send a message to someone?" This time he answered correctly as usual. The next door opened just as simply. They had passed through many questions. Isabel exclaimed, "Unbelievable, we've reached the 5th room." But he still didn't understand. "Strange. The questions have nothing to do with magic. They're all about random topics." She followed behind curiously. "What does he want?" "I'm even more amazed that you can answer all those questions correctly." Right after they arrived at the room with the oldest Schweizer, the old man illusion said, "This is the end of the journey." Seeing this illusion, he was moved, tears welling up. Schweizer before him was an elderly old man, holding a treasured sword. He said, "Lukas Trowman, the mage, who since the age of 40 was considered the strongest in the world and the most transcendent of all humanity. It was a pride and happiness in life to become his closest friend." He replied, "Me too." Before Isabel's confused eyes, he didn't care and trembled as he said, "To me, you were an irreplaceable friend." She was alarmed. What did he just say? The illusion continued. "And now the final question, what is my real name?" At this point, he understood the previous questions weren't meaningless. He had asked questions only he could answer. He calmly answered, "Wilseman." She heard and whispered, "Isn't his name Schweizer?" "Yes." The illusion smiled and said, "Please enter." Then it disappeared, adding, "Everything has been prepared for you." He called out, "Wait!" Before he could finish, Schweizer's illusion, about to vanish, wished him, "Stay healthy, Lukas." He cried out in anguish, reaching for the disappearing shadow of the illusion, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. Isabel gasped. Just now, Great Mage Schweizer called Frey Lukas. They continued through many rooms until reaching a simple rustic room. Frey said, "This is the final room." Isabel looked around in confusion. Strange, this place looks no different from an ordinary room. But he was delighted. Found it. Then he picked up a small vial. She asked, "What is that vial?" He answered, "It's Tears of the River of Frost." She was startled. "What Tears of the River of Frost? Isn't that the legendary water found only in the Cave of Weeping that drops once every 1,000 years?" the divine liquid capable of unleashing the user's potential and greatly increasing their mana. The more she spoke, the more miraculous this vial seemed. It could even instantly turn an ordinary person into a 4-star mage with just one drop. He glanced at her and calmly said, "You're quite knowledgeable." She lost her composure and rushed forward. "But I heard it was just a legend. Are you sure this is Tears of the River of Frost?" He said proudly, "It's what I need to become a 7-star mage." She looked at the container and understood. "So that's why you came here." Then she picked up another item and asked, "What's this?" He was startled when he saw her, and she even complained, "Earrings, the design looks ugly," while he grumbled, "Why did that old man Schweizer put it all the way in here?" She didn't know anything and tried the earrings on her ears. He looked at them and said with confusion, "The Tempest earrings. I made them myself." Isabel was surprised. "Really?" Then she mocked, "Can you talk sensibly? How could something you made end up in the final room of Schweizer's dungeon?" He smiled mysteriously. "There are many things in this world you don't understand yet," she pouted. "You always dodge my questions like that." He examined the earrings carefully. "These were a gift to Schweizer. I never thought he'd keep them this long." His voice was filled with emotion. Isabel watched him. The way he held those earrings, the look in his eyes. She was becoming more certain about his true identity. "Frey? No, should I call you Lukas?" He looked at her sharply. "So, you figured it out." She nodded slowly. "Schweizer called you Lukas. You answered questions only his friend could know. And those earrings, you said you made them yourself?" He sighed. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for." She knelt before him. The Great Mage Lukas Trowman standing before me. He quickly pulled her up. "Stop that. I'm still Frey Blake to the outside world." She looked at him with awe. "All this time I've been traveling with a legend." He shook his head. "I'm no legend, just someone trying to fix his past mistakes." They gathered the items they needed. Frey took the Tears of the River of Frost. As for the Tempest earrings, he looked at Isabel. "Keep them. Consider it a gift from an old friend." Her eyes widened. "But these are priceless artifacts." He smiled. Schweizer would have wanted them to be used, not displayed. She carefully put on the earrings. Immediately, she felt a surge of power flowing through her. "This feeling..." He nodded. "They enhance wind magic, perfect for you." They made their way out of the dungeon. The journey back was silent, both lost in their own thoughts. When they finally emerged, sunlight greeted them. Isabel took a deep breath. "We did it." Frey looked at the vial in his hand. "This is just the beginning." Days later, they returned to civilization. News had spread about their expedition. People whispered about the mysterious mage who conquered Schweizer's dungeon. Frey ignored the attention. He had more important things to focus on. The Tears of the River of Frost would help him reach 7-star level. But that wasn't enough to defeat the Demigods. He needed more power, more allies, more knowledge. The war was just beginning. Perron contacted them shortly after their return. "I heard about your success. Congratulations." Frey nodded. "We found what we needed." "Good, because we have a situation." Perron's expression turned serious. "The Jun family is hosting a banquet. My father specifically requested your presence." Frey raised an eyebrow. "Your father? Why would he want to see me?" Perron hesitated. "I'm not entirely sure, but he's been asking about you a lot lately." "It could be an opportunity or a trap." Frey considered the options. "When is this banquet?" Perron answered. "In 3 days. Will you come?" Frey made his decision. "I'll be there." Whatever the June Patriarch wanted, Frey would face it head on. He had faced worse enemies than nobles. The days passed quickly. Frey prepared himself both mentally and magically. He practiced with the Tears of the River of Frost, feeling his power grow. Isabel trained alongside him. With the Tempest earrings, her wind magic had improved dramatically. She was now firmly at 4-star level. On the day of the banquet, they set out for the Jun estate. It was a massive property befitting one of the most powerful magical families in the Empire. Guards lined the entrance, servants bustled about, nobles from various families had gathered, all dressed in their finest attire. Frey and Isabel arrived at the gate. A servant bowed. "Master Frey Blake and Lady Isabel Trisneen, you are expected. Please follow me." They were led through magnificent hallways. Paintings of past Jun patriarchs adorned the walls. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the path. Isabel whispered, "This place is incredible." Frey remained focused. He could sense powerful magical signatures throughout the estate. They arrived at the main hall. Dozens of nobles were already present, engaged in polite conversation. All eyes turned to them as they entered. Whispers followed. Is that Frey Blake, the one they call the Academy's miracle? I heard he defeated an entire bandit gang single-handedly. Frey ignored the whispers. He scanned the room, noting potential threats and exits. Old habits from 4,000 years ago died hard. A familiar face approached. Perrin Jun, dressed in formal attire, smiled warmly. Frey, you made it. He clasped Frey's hand. I said I would. Frey looked around. Where's your father? Perron's smile faltered slightly. He'll join us soon. He's particular about timing. A woman approached them, beautiful, elegant, with an air of nobility. Perrin introduced her. Frey, this is my sister Lilia Jun. Lilia studied Frey with curious eyes. So you're the one my brother keeps talking about? Frey nodded politely. It's an honor to meet you. She smiled, but there was something calculating in her gaze. The honor is mine. Anyone who can impress Perron must be remarkable. Isabel felt slightly uncomfortable under Lilia's scrutiny. The noble woman seemed to be assessing everything about them. Perron cleared his throat. Shall I show you around? The banquet won't officially start for another hour. Frey agreed. Lead the way. As they walked, Perron spoke quietly. Be careful around my father. He's not like other nobles. He's a 7-star mage, one of the most powerful in the Empire. Frey nodded. He had already sensed the immense magical power emanating from somewhere in the estate. I'll keep that in mind. They toured the gardens, the library, and several reception halls. The Jun family's wealth and influence were evident everywhere. Eventually, a servant approached. Young Master Perron, the Lord requests Master Frey's presence in his study. Perron looked concerned. Already, I thought... He turned to Frey. I'll come with you. Frey shook his head. I'll go alone. Stay with Isabel. Isabel protested. Frey, I don't think... He cut her off gently. I'll be fine, trust me. She reluctantly agreed. Frey followed the servant through winding corridors. They climbed stairs and passed through secured doors. Finally, they arrived at an ornate door. The servant knocked. My lord, Master Frey Blake has arrived. A deep voice answered from within. Enter. Frey stepped inside. The study was large, filled with books and magical artifacts. Behind a massive desk sat a man with sharp features and piercing eyes, Lord Jun, patriarch of the Jun family. His presence was overwhelming, his magical aura barely contained. This was a 7-star mage at his peak. Frey Blake? Lord Jun gestured to a chair. Please sit. Frey sat, maintaining a calm exterior despite his alertness. Lord Jun studied him for a long moment. You're younger than I expected, yet your magical signature tells a different story. Frey remained silent, waiting. Lord Jun continued. My son speaks highly of you, as does the Aquarid family. That's quite an accomplishment for someone your age. I simply did what was right, Frey replied carefully. Lord Jun's eyes narrowed. Modesty, how refreshing in a young mage. He leaned forward. But let's dispense with pleasantries. I know what you're hiding. Frey's expression didn't change, but inwardly he tensed. Those earrings you're wearing, Lord Jun pointed. The Tempest earrings, I recognize them. They were created by Lukas Trowman himself. Frey touched the earrings. He had forgotten he was still wearing them. You're well informed, Lord Jun smiled coldly. I've studied the Age of Light extensively. Those earrings disappeared when Schweitzer Wilstermann died. Now they suddenly appear on a student from Westroad Academy. Quite the coincidence, wouldn't you say? Frey considered his options. Denial seemed pointless. What exactly are you implying, Lord Jun? Lord Jun stood and walked to the window. I'm implying that you found Schweizer's dungeon, that you passed his tests, that you know things no living person should know. He turned to face Frey. The question is, what are you planning to do with that knowledge? Frey met his gaze unflinchingly. That depends on whose side you're on. Lord Jun laughed, but there was no humor in it. Whose side? There are sides now. Frey decided to take a risk. The Demigods, do you serve them? The room went silent. Lord Jun's expression hardened. You know about them. It wasn't a question. Frey nodded. I know more than most. Lord Jun returned to his seat. Then you know how dangerous it is to speak of them openly. They have ears everywhere. Frey leaned forward. That's not an answer. Lord Jun was quiet for a moment. Then, surprising Frey, he chuckled. You have courage, I'll give you that. Challenging a 7-star mage in his own home. I've challenged worse. Frey's voice was cold. Lord Jun's eyes flickered with interest. Have you now? That's quite a bold claim. He pulled something from his desk, a small crystal that glowed faintly. This creates a barrier. No one can hear our conversation now. To answer your question, no, I do not serve the Demigods. Lord Jun's voice was low but intense. I despise them as much as anyone. Frey studied him carefully. Why should I believe you? Lord Jun smiled bitterly. Because they killed my wife. The woman I loved more than anything. She discovered something she shouldn't have, asked questions that drew their attention. One day she simply disappeared. His voice cracked slightly. Frey recognized the pain in his eyes. It was the same pain he felt when thinking about his own lost comrades. I'm sorry. Lord Jun composed himself. I've been gathering information ever since, building my power, waiting for the right moment to strike. But I'm just one man against gods. I needed allies. He looked at Frey with new intensity. And then you appeared. A young mage with impossible knowledge. Power that shouldn't exist. Artifacts from the Age of Light. Lord Jun leaned forward. So tell me, Frey Blake, who are you really? Frey made a decision. If they were to be allies, honesty was necessary. My name is Lukas Trowman. I was sealed by the Demigods 4,000 years ago. Now I've returned to destroy them. Lord Jun's eyes widened. For a moment he seemed speechless. Then he laughed genuinely this time. Lukas Trowman, the Great Mage himself. I thought I'd seen everything in my 60 years of life, but this? He shook his head in amazement. This is beyond anything I imagined. Frey waited as Lord Jun processed the information. Finally, the Patriarch spoke again. If you truly are who you say you are... He stood and walked to a cabinet. Inside was a sword, ancient and powerful. This belonged to my ancestor, a knight who fought alongside the Seven Sages. He passed down stories of that era, stories about you, Lukas Trowman. Lord Jun looked at the sword reverently. My family has waited generations for the prophecy to be fulfilled, for the Great Mage to return and challenge the false gods. Frey was surprised. Prophecy? What prophecy? Lord Jun turned to him. You don't know Schweizer made a prediction before he died. He said that one day the sealed mage would return, that he would gather the legacies of the fallen sages, that he would wage war against the heavens. Frey thought about this. Schweizer had always been perceptive. Even in death, he was guiding Frey's path. So you'll help me, Frey asked. Lord Jun nodded firmly. The Jun family stands with you, Lukas Trowman. Our resources, our knowledge, our power. Everything we have is at your disposal. He extended his hand. Frey shook it. Another powerful ally had joined the cause. They discussed strategy late into the night. Lord Jun shared intelligence about demigod movements, their agents, their influence, their weaknesses. Frey contributed his knowledge from the Age of Light. Together, they began forming a comprehensive battle plan. When Frey finally emerged from the study, the banquet was long over. Perron and Isabel were waiting anxiously in a nearby room. Frey? Isabel rushed to him. What happened? You were gone for hours. He smiled reassuringly. I made a new ally. Perron looked relieved. My father, he accepted you. Frey nodded. More than that, he's joining our cause. Perron's eyes widened in shock. He told you about everything. Frey understood. Perron had known about his father's vendetta all along. Yes, it seems your family has been preparing for this day for generations. Perron bowed his head. I wanted to tell you, but father insisted on meeting you first. He needed to confirm you were the one. Frey placed a hand on Perron's shoulder. I understand. You did the right thing. The next few days were busy. Plans were set in motion. The Jun family's network began working alongside Trowman Rings. Information flowed. Resources were mobilized. For the first time, the resistance had real power behind it. Frey continued his training as well. The tears of the River of Frost enhanced his mana capacity significantly. He could feel himself approaching 7-star level. Just a little more and he would reach heights he hadn't touched in 4,000 years. Isabel improved alongside him. With the Tempest earrings and his guidance, she was becoming a formidable mage in her own right. One day, Frey decided to reveal more of the truth to his inner circle. He gathered Perron, Isabel, Lord Jun, and Professor Jine. It's time you knew everything, he began. About the demigods, about the Age of Light, and about what we're truly fighting for. He told them about the Seven Sages, about their battle against the demigods, about how they lost and how he was sealed. He spoke of Kasajan, Schweizer, Iris, and the others. Their sacrifices, their legacies, their hopes for the future. When he finished, silence filled the room. Then Lord Jun spoke. The other legacies. We need to find them all. Frey nodded. Schweizer's dungeon was just the first. There are others. Kasajin's hidden dojo, Iris's tower, Diablo's fortress. Each contains knowledge and power that will be essential for our war. Professor Jean added, I've found references to some of these locations in the Academy archives. With more time, I can pinpoint their exact positions. Perron contributed, the Jun family has maps of ancient magical sites. Some might correspond to these legacies. Isabel raised her hand hesitantly. I may not have much to offer in terms of resources, but I'll follow you wherever you go. Frey smiled. Your determination is worth more than you know. He looked at each of them in turn. This won't be easy. We're fighting beings that have ruled this world for millennia. Many of us may not survive. But if we succeed, we'll free humanity from their shadow forever. Lord Jun raised his cup. To victory! The others echoed the toast. The resistance was truly taking shape now. With powerful allies, ancient knowledge, and unwavering determination, they had a real chance. But Frey knew the demigods wouldn't remain ignorant forever. Eventually, they would learn of his return. And then the real battle would begin. For now, he would prepare, train, gather strength. When the time came, he would face his enemies with everything he had. 4,000 years ago, he had lost. This time, he would make sure things ended differently. This time, the demigods would fall. And Lukas Trowman would finally have his revenge. Weeks passed. Frey's power continued to grow. He finally reached the threshold of 7-star magic, a level few had ever achieved. The sensation was overwhelming. Mana flowed through him like a raging river. He could feel the very fabric of reality bending to his will. But with power came responsibility. He had to be careful. Drawing too much attention would alert the demigods to his presence. He kept his true power hidden, using only what was necessary. To the outside world, he remained Frey Blake, a talented but unremarkable student. Meanwhile, the resistance expanded. More families joined their cause, brought in by Lord Jun's influence and Perron's diplomacy. Secret meetings were held, strategies were discussed, an underground network formed connecting allies across the continent. Sonia Aquarid proved invaluable. Her family's Night Order provided military might while their territory offered safe havens for resistance members. Everything was falling into place, but Frey knew better than to be complacent. The demigods had survived for eons for a reason. One night as he sat alone in meditation, he felt something, a familiar presence watching from afar. Cold, ancient, terrifying. His blood ran cold. One of them knew. A demigod had sensed something. Whether they knew it was him specifically, Frey couldn't tell. But he was certain of one thing: the game of shadows was about to become a war of revelations. He opened his eyes, determination burning within them. So it begins, he whispered to the night. The next phase of his journey was about to start. And this time, he wouldn't run or hide. He would face his destiny head on. The Great Mage had returned, and the world would never be the same. The day of reckoning approached. Frey had received word from Lord Jun's informants. A gathering of demigods was happening. It was a rare opportunity. Multiple enemies in one place. But it was also incredibly dangerous. Attacking them directly would be suicide. Instead, Frey planned to observe, learn their movements, their weaknesses, their plans. Knowledge was power. He set out alone despite protests from his allies. This mission required stealth, and a group would only draw attention. Using ancient concealment magic, he approached the gathering place. It was a temple hidden in the mountains, protected by powerful barriers. Barriers that might stop ordinary mages. But Frey was no ordinary mage. He knew these barriers. He had helped design some of them millennia ago. Carefully, he slipped through the defenses. What he saw inside made his blood boil with hatred. 3 demigods sat around a table, discussing the world as if it were their playground. Humans were mentioned as tools, as cattle, as entertainment. Frey recognized one of them, the very being who had sealed him 4,000 years ago, the one who had taken everything from him. His hands trembled with barely contained rage. It would be so easy to attack now, to unleash his full power and attempt to destroy them. But no, he wasn't strong enough yet, not against 3 demigods at once. Patience had kept him sane for 4,000 years. He listened as they discussed their plans. Apparently they had sensed a disturbance in the magical fabric of the world. Something has changed, one of them said. Power that shouldn't exist has awakened. Another laughed dismissively. Probably another fool playing with forces beyond their understanding. We've seen it countless times. They rise, we crush them. The cycle continues. The third, the one Frey hated most, remained silent, thinking. Perhaps, he finally said, but we should investigate regardless. After what happened with the 7 sages, I prefer caution over complacency. Frey's heart raced. They knew something was happening, they just didn't know it was him, not yet. He gathered as much information as he could, then carefully retreated. The journey back was tense, but he made it without incident. When he returned, he immediately called a meeting. They're suspicious, he reported. They've sensed the changes in the world's magical balance. We need to accelerate our plans, find the remaining legacies faster, build our forces before they realize what's happening. Lord Jun nodded grimly. I'll mobilize more resources. We have contacts in other kingdoms who might help. Paran added Trowman rings has grown significantly. We now have members in key positions throughout the academy and beyond. Professor Jane spoke up. I've located Kasajin's hidden dojo. It's in the eastern mountains protected by ancient martial arts magic. Frey's eyes lit up. Kasajin's legacy. That will be our next destination. He looked at Isabel. Are you ready for another adventure? She grinned. Always. Her confidence had grown tremendously since their first meeting. She was no longer the timid student from before. Preparations began immediately. This time they would be better equipped, better prepared. The mistakes of Schweizer's dungeon wouldn't be repeated. The journey to the eastern mountains would be long and dangerous, but what awaited them was worth any risk. Kasajin had been the greatest martial artist of the Age of Light. His techniques combined physical prowess with magical enhancement. If Frey could recover those techniques, his close combat abilities would increase dramatically. He would no longer rely solely on magic. And there might be more. Kasajin had been working on something secret before his death. Something that could turn the tide against the demigods. Frey remembered fragments of their last conversation. If I die, Kasajin had said, find my dojo. Everything you need will be there. At the time, Frey hadn't understood. Now he hoped his old friend had left behind a miracle. The night before their departure, Frey stood on a balcony gazing at the stars. So much had changed since his awakening. He had allies now, real allies who believed in his cause, students who looked up to him, nobles who supported him. But he also had enemies, powerful enemies who would stop at nothing to maintain their dominion. The war ahead would be brutal. Can't sleep. Isabel's voice came from behind him. He didn't turn around. Too much on my mind. She stood beside him, also looking at the sky. Tell me about them, your friends from before. He was quiet for a moment. Then he began to speak. About Schweizer's genius and his annoying habit of appearing young. About Kasajin's strength and his ridiculous sense of justice. About Iris's beauty and her equally beautiful heart hidden behind mysterious smiles. About Diablo's darkness and his surprising loyalty. He spoke of battles fought and victories won, of losses suffered and lessons learned, of a time when hope seemed possible. Isabel listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said softly, They sound wonderful. He nodded. They were the best people I ever knew. And now they're gone, killed by beings who saw humans as nothing more than insects. His voice hardened. I won't let their deaths be meaningless. Isabel placed her hand on his arm. They won't be. We'll make sure of that. He looked at her, seeing the determination in her eyes. When did you become so brave? She smiled. When I met someone worth being brave for. He chuckled. Don't get sentimental on me, Isabel. She laughed. Too late for that. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars until dawn. The next morning, they set out for the eastern mountains. The journey would take several weeks, even with magical transportation. Along the way, they encountered various challenges. Monsters, bandits, natural disasters. Nothing they couldn't handle. Finally, they reached their destination. A hidden valley surrounded by mist and protected by ancient barriers. Kasajin's dojo stood in the center, weathered by time but still standing. Frey felt a wave of nostalgia wash over him. We're here, he said softly. The next chapter of his journey was about to begin. Inside, secrets awaited. Knowledge that had been preserved for 4,000 years. Power that could change the course of history. And perhaps, just perhaps, answers to questions that had haunted him since his return. The Great Mage stepped forward, ready to claim another legacy, ready to take another step toward his ultimate goal. The destruction of the demigods and the liberation of humanity. Nothing would stand in his way, not time, not fate, not even the gods themselves. Lukas Trowman had returned, and he would see this through to the end. Whatever that end might be. Frey asked her, What's wrong? You said to talk naturally. Isabel reminded him. Frey? Lilia shyly said to Frey. I heard you're classmates with my brother at Westroad Academy. May I ask what kind of person my brother is at school? Frey answered nonchalantly. Don't really know. Paran is 2 years older than me, so we don't meet often. Hearing Frey say that, Lilia thought in surprise. He's 2 years younger than Paran, so this young man is younger than me too. Is this young man really friends with my brother? Isabel reminded Frey. This is the Jun family mansion. At least show some respect to the hosts. Frey said irritably. What now? When they entered the main mansion, Paran was already waiting at the door. He cheerfully greeted Frey. Please come in. Why so late? I've been waiting for you for so long. Paran walked over, patted Frey's shoulder, and asked, Is your business done? Frey smiled and answered, Yeah, pretty much done. Paran was surprised by Frey's new hair color. Oh, your hair color! Frey said happily. Like it, I wanted to change my image. Lilia watched them chat so intimately and found it puzzling. Frey complained to Perron, I'm exhausted and hungry. Perron looked at him and smiled. Seeing you so haggard, I understand without you saying. Saying this, Perron even winked at Frey, making Lilia think this was the first time she'd seen her brother this excited. Lilia walked over to where they were enthusiastically chatting and spoke up. Hey, are you just going to ignore your sister? Perron turned and smiled, saying to Lilia, Of course not. No way I wouldn't notice our family's princess. Princess, how's the banquet going? I just didn't know you were here. Frey was surprised to see the Jun siblings chatting so intimately. Lilia walked straight into the house and said, Never mind, have fun. Perron hurriedly called after Lilia, then thought, This is rude. My sister does get angry often, but getting upset without reason like this is really strange. Frey said with a gloomy face to Perrin, In my opinion, you saying princess without embarrassment is even stranger. They went into the mansion and continued chatting. Perron said to Frey, But I had no idea your weak point was that hellish mountain range. Frey asked in surprise. How do you know? Did I say that? Perron asked Frey. I heard you saved my fiancé on the mountain. Frey wondered. Fiancé, Isabel quickly said. Seems like they're talking about Lady Sonia. Frey remembered and said, Ah, Sonia, she arrived safely, right? Perron sighed and said, Right now she only thinks about sword training. She worked so hard to earn the title Storm at that age. Frey teased Perron. Yeah, she's wasted on you. Perron knew Frey was joking and said, What was that? Frey just laughed it off and asked, But where are we going now? Perron answered, Ah, guests of the Jun family must first greet the family head. It's the rule. They arrived in front of a room. Perron said to Frey and Isabel, I'll introduce you to my father. At the dining table sat all the members of the Jun family. Perron's father said to Frey, It's an honor to have you. Is Count Blake well? Frey smiled and said, Ah, yes, just the usual. Isabel sat beside Frey feeling pressure and thought, Such an imposing presence. After saying that Frey thought his father had only borrowed Frey's body, they hadn't even met once yet. Frey looked at Perron's father and assessed him. The head of the Jun family, one of the 5 mages with 7 attributes in the Empire, and also the master of the 4th magic tower. Perhaps he's connected to that demigod. Perron's father put down his teacup and said to Frey, The 6th magic tower is too far away. I can only meet the Count once a year at the magic festival. I miss those beneficial and pleasant meetings with him, Frey just replied. Yes, sir. He pondered unmistakably. That tattoo is the magic circle tattoo of the River of Frost. Perron's father then expressed gratitude to Frey. It seems not only Perron, but also his fiancé owes you a debt of gratitude. I sincerely express my thanks. Frey replied politely, You're too kind, sir. Perron's father asked him, By the way, what business did you have at Hell Mountain? Frey spoke vaguely about it. Personal matters, sir. Perron's father questioned further. Personal matters. Frey tried to add, just very trivial matters not worth mentioning. Perron's father just chuckled and moved on. He asked Perron, how are the banquet preparations going? Perron replied to his father, I'm preparing intensively. Perron's father reminded him, This is a banquet with many distinguished guests attending. You children will directly oversee the operations. Perron bowed his head in acknowledgement. I understand, father. Then he turned to Frey. Frey, come with. Before he could finish, his father cut him off. He said, Right, Frey. Recently I've personally been researching a type of magic. I'd like to hear your opinion. Perhaps your abilities might prove useful. Frey said modestly, You're too kind, sir. Perron could only sit silently and listen to them talk. Perron's father seemed enthusiastic as he said to Frey, I need new perspectives and skills, so I want to hear a young mage's opinion. Perron and his siblings left the dining table and said to Frey, Then we'll meet at the banquet, Frey. Frey also replied, Good luck. Then he turned to Isabel. Isabel, help Perron for me. Isabel also stood up and said to him, I understand.